don't know, this thing.
Yeah, it's on
I'll
the
go
back
with
of
in
the
theirs.
conference call number.
Oh yeah, you just punch in your numbers.
I don't know how to work this phone. Good? How does this thing work?
Smarty, would that help? From her desk. That's why it wasn't working.
Yeah. There's something.
We can call it from this phone if you guys are want to get started.
It's easier to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, it's louder. It'll take it about a minute.
We can wait a minute.
What? Yes, I personally know people that two
Close
people
enough? We have space.
had this. You do? Yeah. This one's from Chicago. Really? Yeah. I met it up on years. Got to be getting over by now, shouldn't he? I don't think, no. That would hold like 5 to 7 days. Yeah. The other one's already off, the home and everything. But she thought she was gonna die. Really?
Dakota lady.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I know 5 people. Both of my aunt, well, Troy Ketwick.
Yeah,
That's
right.
my aunt's nephew.
Yeah,
And then my other aunt lives in Wisconsin, her niece in New York.
yeah.
This lady is Holberg, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, somebody from town here's daughter and son-in-law in Idaho both got it.
Oh, is that right?
Didn't get hospitalized. No, I don't think any of them other than Troy, but
See, no, yeah, and I only know the two, the one from Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them, I'm shooting 100% that they had to be hospitalized, not ventilators.
my son lives in Berkland. They've been holed up for 3 weeks. They don't, other than go out for food, that's about as far as they get.
Very little spray bottle or whatever of Lysol is her doctor who was up there in the chain. He said, I will guarantee you that the way you get it is. Is that right?
Please enter your participant or moderator code followed by the pound key.
Somebody coughs right in your face, so you can get it too.
Please say your name followed by the pound key. The moderator has not yet joined the conference.
What's the moderator code? 'Cause that was the participant code. He's got it probably.
Good. Well, I don't have that.
There's the participant code, I don't see it.
There was a piece of paper here.
Same as last week then?
This one?
I haven't moved
anything.
These were here before. Here, is it? Nope.
That's one stat I haven't seen is what percentage of people that get the flu and up on ventilators. Yeah, whether it's anywhere near. I know they do.
Well, they were showing, was it 62 or 63 people in Iowa have died from the flu this year?
In the whole country, it's like 38,000 already that died from the flu this year.
I'd like to see a breakdown of ages on that.
But there's a lot more people who get the flu too, because it's much more widespread. The breakdown in ages is, you're at-risk populations.
Please enter your participant or moderator code followed by the pound key. Please say your name followed by the pound key.
It was. Ready? All right, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda as presented.
Second. On the motion, Derby and second Stendrad to approve minutes and agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
75:30.
You guys looking for me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
I'm on the horn.
All right, well, I'll just hang that up then. You're up.
You want me?
All right,
Scott.
all right, I set before you guys a picture of the Rice Lake subdivision, no, excuse me, the Eagle Lane subdivision. You guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about today, as you can see, that there's a cul-de-sac and the street is pretty narrow. Out there, it's a curb and gutter section. It is the only curb and gutter section in the county, I believe. It's 24 feet wide, all the way from where it meets the county blacktop A34 and then goes all the way around the cul-de-sac at that width. As you can see on that picture, you can see there's a couple cars parked on the road there. And I think since it was built in, I think it was 2006, there have been some new owners out there, and I think parking on the street has become more frequently used. It's becoming a little bit of an issue for getting specifically snow removal equipment around there, but it's also really too narrow to be parking on the street and have good clean access for emergency vehicles, or even if you got quad cab pickup, with your long wheelbase trying to get around that cul-de-sac, because it's pretty tight at the end there. I mean, it's just really small. County had design done before it was built, and they just built it as big as they could. But the cul-de-sacs are really a tough thing to maintain with county snow removal equipment. The city has payloaders and different things like that help them with those things, but it's tough for us. So we'd like to propose turning that road into a no parking on the street area. You can see the lots there are about half an acre or so, and they all have pretty good sized driveways. So I think that there's good space for them to park in their driveways and still have room to get the other cars out of the garage and all that kind of thing. In my discussions briefly with Kelsey, it sounds like in order to enact a no parking zone, we'd need to pass an ordinance. So we just draft an ordinance and then have the board act on that at 3 consecutive meetings, or if they choose, I think they can waive some of those. Before we went and drafted anything, I just wanted to talk about it with you guys and see what you thought. I would expect, we wouldn't have 100% full support out there, obviously, since there are some cars parking on the road. So, it may be something that isn't 100% popular out there, but
Well, they might not even know. I was just gonna say, have you talked to them? I mean, that's the first thing I looked at was there was fairly adequate room in each one of their driveways. I mean, that's what we do at my dad's place. We park all the vehicles in his driveway, and then you just kinda gotta dodge them as you go out.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, it might be a thing, if you just ask them not to park in the street, maybe they wouldn't. At least during the snow removal, for sure.
I'd rather see more of a snow removal ordinance where
no parking on
During
the
snow
street
event.
during snow emergency or snow
Right.
events.
That and, well, you look at, if you're having a graduation or some kind of a party out there, you gotta have a place for these people to park. But
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know if we, suppose, and then, I don't know, would you just limit that cul-de-sac more since it's a turnaround problem?
no, I could see it in the wintertime, Scott.
Yeah.
Especially.
I thought about too, you know, what if we limit parking on just the end? Well, I'd be a little bit afraid that, you know, those are the people that look like they're parking in the street now, and so I'd hate for them to be, you know, parking in front of other people's houses then. And just, you know, how that is, people like their space in front of their own house for their own use and cars and whatever, so I'd hate to just push them out further into the straight part.
I guess
I
it
don't know.
depends on how big you want your sign, you know, we would have to accept it like Terry said, accept it. Not an
Exception?
exception, with it, yeah, make an exception for like, you know, if you have 10 people over your house, there's no room in driveways, so. And there's
Yeah.
probably more exception than that even, so,
Yeah, I was thinking too, you know, like, you know, when people have estate auctions or whatever out in the country, they always got people parking on the gravel road. It's not really legal, but of course nobody calls it in because it's necessary and it's a one-time thing, or it's, you know, it's not a regular thing. But if you always parked on the side of the gravel road, certainly we'd get calls about it.
yeah.
So it might be somewhat self-policing like that, but
How
I don't
about,
know.
have you thought of no 24-hour parking?
I'm sure we could restrict it by any, you know, time of day or anything like that, I suppose. I mean, have any of you guys driven that cul-de-sac
Yeah.
recently?
And I agree with you, you know.
It's really tight there at the end there. I looked up this is a preferred standard, so it's not black and white necessarily, but, you know, they recommend if you build streets for parking on one side that they be 26 foot in width. This is 24, so close, but not quite. The cul-de-sac being kind of special circumstance because it's so tight to turn in there. So that's a little bit of what the guidance I looked up is for what that's worth. Like I said, some of those driveways are, you know, they're 35 feet wide. They're great big wide driveways. But
Right.
I know what you're saying. If you got 10 cars, it'd be hard to find a spot for them. But I don't know how often that happens, or if it's, you know, just some kind of judgment to be used to do that kind of thing.
I mean, for the, you know, I mean, getting a fire truck around there probably with a car there looks like it would probably be a bit of a challenge. Not that happens every day, but, something during the snow events for sure, kinda like, you know,
Or what about a UPS truck, you know, or
you know,
any kind of delivery truck of that sort?
yeah, I mean, you can, I'm sure you can make it. Anything that's gets longer than that, UPS truck probably able to make that relatively easy.
Depends on how they're parked.
Well, the guys that brought this to your attention, are they parking there a lot on the street? You think these are homeowners, just using it as their parking space?
I think it's homeowners using it as their parking spaces. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like, you know, big groups or anything like that. I'd say typically it's maybe a kid's car, or, you know, maybe they got a third car that they don't drive to work every day, or that kind of thing is what my best guess would be.
I don't know why, I wouldn't even want mine out in the street, I'd rather have it at the end of my driveway.
No, and you'd think that specifically during snow removal or something, because, you know, you're asking for door dings or whatever with snow removal equipment because nobody can see very well. It's dark a lot of times. Most of the time when they get plowed, it's probably, I don't know, 4:30 a.m. or so. yeah, that's not a very good situation, but yet we had several times where they were out there during, snow removal too. And like I said, there's no signs out there now, so if you didn't just decide that's what you're going to do, I guess there's nothing to tell you that. You shouldn't park during snow removal, but.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it's gotta take care of, this is an issue. It needs to be taken care of. I mean, you can end up missing a mirror on your vehicle, it's, when you're moving snow, pretty easy. Have all the owners been contacted at all? Maybe it's a thing where you could just send them all a letter and ask them nicely not to park there, and maybe they won't park there anymore.
Thing of it is, if we've got to pass an ordinance, you have some teeth in it, so that if there's, during snow, there's there's things that we can do if we're having a problem.
Yeah, I mean, when we have snow removal equipment out, we always find cars kind of in the road or too close to the road. So Mark's making calls, or I'm making calls too. So it's something we try to do and get ahead of, because any vehicle that's on the road is, the snowplow has to turn around and come back later, pretty much. And it really does take quite a bit of time to handle those kinds of things.
So snow removal is the main, snow removal?
Well, I mean,
it's
the main thing from our perspective is the snow removal.
Yeah, okay.
Operations, I guess, but I think it really wasn't ever designed to be an on-street parking type of road. It doesn't seem like it was, being 24 foot wide, which is the same width as county roads are, a little bit, plus a curb and gutter. So I think you get mixed opinions if we contacted them all. I think we've heard from some, and I won't name any names, but no, we haven't specifically contacted each of them, Bill.
So are we better off going with something like a no overnight parking?
Yeah, you want people to be able to park there, like you say, during graduation or something like that.
Or during the day if they stop to see somebody, or.
You got some company that comes over for, well, whatever.
And, if you're not able to park overnight, and you can be ticketed for it, or eventually towed, you're gonna be probably less likely to park there regularly as somebody that lives there.
I know parking ordinance, you could never park there in a sense, and this here would allow parking, you just wouldn't allow permanent parking, so therefore their incentive for parking out there would kind of dissipate.
Kind of like downtown, or any downtown, it seems like there's no overnight parking.
What time does the snowplow usually get there?
Mark plows that cul-de-sac with his pickup, I think, almost all the time, except for when they get some real high buildup in there. And I'd say probably there by shortly after 4 a.m. most of the time. Sometimes he might do it twice in a day, so then it'd be later on. So it could really be any time of day after 4 a.m. and before, 6 p.m. maybe.
How about no parking from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m.? Something like that. Noon.
But then they could still put them out there during the day during the snow event.
Yeah, but if Mark comes at 4.
Yeah.
So you just want a time that there won't be any cars on the road, right?
Not all snow is the same.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, one part of it's snow removal. The other part is for just any traveling public using, like I said, a bread van or delivery van or even a long pickup. I don't think you can quite get around there very good with cars parked at the cul-de-sac. I mean,
Yeah, I can understand the cul-de-sac, your concern there, but, anything besides the cul-de-sac, if you can't get around, in 18 feet, why, you're not a good driver.
So
I just think,
Maybe
I think there's exceptions that we'd have to make and, you know, I don't know if they,
Yeah, but-
I don't know if they,
Right, yeah.
besides a lot of people there for a party, you know, but,
Yeah, I guess maybe the question is, if you try to sign for all the exceptions, it gets a little bit tricky.
right,
Or how much do you use some common sense and say, well, during a party or something, you can park there? Of course, you know, people kind of interpret rules all differently when there's an auction or a party or whatever. And, you know, I think law enforcement officer would use some judgment, I think, but.
Yeah. I mean, for us, the main reason would be to, you know, no parking for snow, but, you know, if there was a fire out there and you had a bunch of fire trucks trying to get around that with cars sitting there, that might not be too convenient, I guess. It's,
Yeah.
so do you complicate it with all kinds of this and that, or do you just say no parking? Get it over with.
It'd be one thing if their driveways were little tiny, but
No, I wouldn't park my vehicle out there, not on a permanent basis. I mean, yeah, if I knew I had company coming, maybe I would park my extra vehicle out on the road so the company could park in the driveway. But, personally, I don't like to leave my cars in the street.
Yeah, keep in mind that, you know, our deputies are all over the place and spread pretty thin, so they're not gonna be patrolling parking on a regular basis. They would only respond from a call.
Yeah. Yeah, so whenever they show up, if somebody's parked there, you wanna be able to, you know, I guess and a big one for giving people tickets right away, but at least maybe leave a note in there and said, I could have given you a ticket. First time, anyway.
It's out of Rice Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess without having had time to really think about it, but off the top of my head, I would think that no parking from whatever time in the morning to whatever noon would take care of the problem, because they're not gonna go out in the morning and move their car. I wouldn't think, I wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, not at 3 a.m., you wouldn't think. Well, I didn't need a decision today or anything. I just wanted to float it by you before we do any, you know, drafting of ordinances that we kind of have
Maybe,
idea what we want to do here, so, yeah, I can just give you time to think about it too, and I can think more about what other options might be, but like I said, if we contact them all, I expect we wouldn't get a unanimous opinion of what we should do.
well, at least you could get either a majority opinion or, you know, one way or the other. My guess is most people would be, rather than wanna have to worry about that ordinance for getting a vehicle out in the street or whatever, that they would maybe just not park them out there anymore.
The car dealer,
That's where the cars are.
he lives on Golden,
Well, that's Ken's old place, isn't
you
it?
know? Is it?
Yeah, that's Ken's.
Okay, yeah, you're right, yeah, it is. He lives south of there.
I'd have to look.
Baggett's good.
Yeah.
Baggett's.
I can tell you what are your questions, Mike? You got?
No, I was just wondering why there would be cars right now on the street, but the guy in that cul-de-sac with 2 cars in front of it, he's a car dealer, so.
Yeah.
And he's got kids at home, so.
Sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't, I mean, there's still plenty of room in the driveway, you know.
Yeah, if you park on towards the end of the driveway, granted.
Or maybe, you know, if you limit the parking overnight there, then they have to come up with other accommodations within their property, like widening their driveway for space off to the side. I mean, I deal with that at my place. I have an extra vehicle that either have to park it on the grass or park it across the yard or something.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't see why we won't come up with something decent that satisfies most people.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think I ought to do here? Contact all the properties that, tough to track people down during the day, so it'd be
You know,
maybe.
I don't know why we would. It's like you said, it could very easily be a 50-50 split. Yeah, no problem. Put up the signs. No, we don't want that, you know, have the other
Well, if they don't want that, then maybe they won't park in the street anymore either.
Yeah, I also don't wanna, put neighbors against each other either,
I think we should just come up with it ourselves and we'll come up with something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, take the week to think about it, shoot me any ideas, and, I guess we can revisit it next week.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the main thing I had. Are you guys good with that for now?
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, I was just gonna mention that, our maintenance crew, the guys are blading roads end to end starting this week, so hopefully we see a lot of, progress from the beginning of the week to the end here with good sunny weather, and hopefully the rain later in the week doesn't hit us and we can make some good progress. I think the truck drivers are still stockpiling and that's going pretty good. We should have all those done by the time we need to start hauling rock, end to end to the roads too. So overall, a pretty good spring compared to last year. Obviously, the roads are holding up pretty good. Let's see, what else? I got a tentative schedule from our paving contractor that they're going to start cold in place recycling work here around June 10th or the middle of June. So got quite a little time before that starts, but it'll be exciting when it does, and we'll be getting out some messaging to the public about those road closures and things. So,
What's your view on a road, on a blacktop that comes to another blacktop? These semis turn and the shoulder turns into a huge pothole. Don't you think we should extend that a little bit?
some of the pavements in our county have tapers kind of at the intersections that are a little bit better. You see, like on A16 on the north part of the county, the roads that go north to Bryceland and Keister, I think those are that way. So over time, some of those have been done, but you're right, it could probably be looked at a little bit. See if we can pull those out a little bit, because you're right, the potholes right on the edge of the radius there are problematic, and we got to continuously fill them with rock and whatever.
How does it work with, like on 69, the federal highway? Because that's the two ones I notice most, 69 and then the blacktop that goes north to Scarville, and then R72 that goes to like Winnebago Church. There's humongous potholes there.
Yeah,
Are they responsible?
pretty much. Anything outside the highways, travel lanes, I think are pretty much county responsibility. I'd have to double check to see if the actual radius pieces are shared, but I think it's 100% county responsibility.
Okay.
So, like on Highway 9, where, what is it, R50, I think, that goes up to Benji, at that intersection, when they repaved Highway 9 back in 75 or 76, there's concrete back so far. Was that just part of the project that they paid for, and then now we're responsible for it?
Well, it's a good question. They did, when they resurfaced Highway 9 most recently, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago, they did resurface, quite a bit north on R50 at that time too. So, our project, we plan to, utilize some of their work and not just overlay it all the way to the corner. So, I'm not sure if I could track down, what the actual responsibility is like that. I'd have to ask some more questions, I guess.
All right. But I think, if as we're paving, we probably need to look at these intersections and try to improve them if we can.
Absolutely. Noted.
I don't have anything.
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I don't have anything either, so.
Okay, that's all I got too.
Move on to number 3 then. Consider for approval resolution authorizing the county engineer to post 5-ton weight limits on all roads in Winnebago County.
Okay, this is a resolution like we do every year. I've got 2 copies on your desk there for you to sign, one for Carlo and for me. Pretty much just allows us to act in the case that we have a problematic stretch of road or something where there's hauling on it that then the road just can't support it. Been very infrequent in recent past that we've actually posted any stretches of road that I can think of. So it's just there in case we need it.
So it's not going to be an embargo, but only the roads that you deem necessary.
Right, it's only enforceable one.
I had a farmer call me this morning, was concerned, he's gonna be hauling corn next week.
Yeah, it says all roads on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some phone calls on it too. They're concerned about the hauling, and I said, well, it's only if they need it.
All right,
Right.
good enough, yep.
They'll know because we'd have, temporary signs with sandbags holding the signs up, and they probably know way ahead of time because the road is getting in really bad shape. But
Yep.
I don't expect we'll have to use it unless, extenuating circumstances.
Good.
Scott, I'll put your
Yeah.
copy on the table outside my office.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, we have to
Make a motion.
make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing our engineer to post a 5-ton weight limit on roads that he deems necessary. Well, you want deems necessary in it?
Well,
A lot of people read these minutes,
sure. Well, I'll refer to the language in the resolution, I guess.
Okay, I've read that. All right,
It just gives him the option.
That he has the authority.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
that you have the authority to post a road for 5-ton.
Motion from Stancher and a second from Derby, to approve a resolution authorizing the county engineer to post 5-ton weight limits on all roads as he deems necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Scoot's in there.
Eric,
Which contractor got the bid on the roads?
Scott, are you still on?
I am.
Who got the contract for the roads?
Matthew Construction.
Okay.
Only reason I ask.
They're a pretty big paving contractor. They did the contract for us in 2010, I think. They're from Wisconsin.
don't take advantage.
All right. So we talked at budget time about replacing the servers that basically everything in the courthouse and public health building run on. The easiest way to think about this is like an apartment building with a bunch of different separate units. And so these are quotes here for new apartment buildings. Because unfortunately in the computer world, you buy a new one every 3 to 5 to 7 years. The current servers were purchased in 2017. and they've served us well, but now they're now 7 years old, and I think pretty much anybody in the computer world. 7?
You bought them in 2017, or before?
13.
13, okay.
2013.
All right, so.
Did I say 17?
You
Yeah,
did.
you did, yeah. And I'm like, well,
I started working here in January of 2013, and then this was one of the first major projects that I worked on, and then on October of 2013 is when we put in what we currently have. And at that time, we used IP Pathways, which is who one of these quotes is from, to do those servers, and had a great relationship with them. They are excellent at what they do. They're also charged for that excellence, and that's something that I've kept in mind as I've been preparing, developing these quotes. So really what you're looking at here is basically option A and option B. If you want to look at it that way. One stack that's stapled is from IP Pathways. The other stack that's stapled is from a company called Scale Computing, and using CDWG as a reseller on that because they don't do direct sales. IP Pathways is also a reseller for the equipment that they're selling. They're very different solutions. I won't bore you with the technical details. The one that's on the CDWG forms is, I'm going to say, easier to manage from the IT perspective. I really like IP Pathways, and as I said, they do excellent work, but it's expensive. And the setup that we have from them has worked great, although it's been getting slower and slower in recent years as computers, applications get bulkier and that kind of thing. So it's definitely not fast anymore.
You say it's expensive, but on the second page of the other company.
Yep.
What's the grand total of the other company?
There's a highlighted number.
Yeah, is that it?
That is it. Yeah, they didn't get the sales tax taken off of there.
Okay.
So the number that's at the top is reflecting sales tax.
So they're both expensive.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And I started looking at the CDW one from Scale, and it's fun. It's different technology at the heart of it, and it's built more for a one-man shop like we have here, and the other one is built more for enterprise, where maybe you have a larger team of people taking care of it. So it requires more skill to manage what we have currently. And what IP Pathways has proposed is probably a more robust industry standard, like, the heavy-duty truck version, but it also takes more specialized skill to maintain it, and so that would mean relying more on IP Pathways or a computer vendor that specializes in this sort of thing. Whereas the other option, to some extent, would put me more in the driver's seat. It doesn't have maybe every single option, or it's not the full heavy-duty truck. It's maybe a little bit lighter truck, but it would pull the load that we have, and it would be easier for me to service. So I'm sitting here looking at making what would be a huge change. It'd be like a software upgrade to a totally different version, or going from one company to another company. And it's not something that I think should be done lightly, but I have taken time over the past month or so to spend time talking to each company and learning about what they have, what the benefits are of each, and that kind of thing. I have also
Almost all identical with the price.
Yeah. Now, one thing.
I'm assuming you got a total here of 101.
Yeah, that's the IP Pathways one is on 3 separate.
Right.
They quoted it out on separate pieces of
But
paper.
that's the total compared to the highlighted one over here.
Correct. Now, the CDW one they're offering more also. More, they have what's called a disaster recovery solution. Like, say, I hope it never happens, but the scenario I always use is if the courthouse burned down, there was total loss here, we have a backup of everything somewhere else. We have that right now. When I initially asked for the quote from IP Pathways, that wasn't part of the conversation. I figured we would do something, but I wanted to get the slow servers taken care of first. Maybe we
How
could,
important is that to you?
the backup.
The backup.
It is important.
Even
and-
though we have backup,
What's that?
even though we have backup already?
We have backup right now, but it needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
So
Will that cost more than the 101?
that would be, with this original one, either we could add it on later, next year or something like that, or
So we're without backup for a year?
we have backup, and what I would do if we went with the IP Pathways one is reuse some of the current equipment that we have in the interim time. But like I said, it's older equipment, so I wouldn't want to be relying on it long term. And IP Pathways is working on another quote that includes the backup and kind of scaling back the heavy dutiness of the truck, so to speak. But I haven't gotten that from them yet.
Now, for the layman's person here,
Mhm.
IP is easier to work with because, I don't know, you don't call it software. It's got better software.
No, I was saying the scale computing from CDW is easier for me to manage with the skill set that I have. It's less complex, or there are more parts. There are
I heard
maybe,
that wrong. Which one are you recommending?
I am struggling because there's benefits both ways, and there's, cons both ways as well. So I just figured I would put it out there and kind of see what you think. At this point, I'm leaning towards scale because they're offering
Why
more.
would you ask?
Well,
It's a lot of money.
it is a lot of money. I mean, I didn't know if you'd just be like, well, we can't afford this anyway.
Six, one, half dozen of the other, then it just doesn't matter, just whichever one is
So
slightly cheaper.
what's the drawback on the CDW one?
It would be a major change. It's gonna take a lot of work on my part, which I'm fine with. And I think, long-term, it may put us in a position to possibly spend less on IT. I mean, and it's not gonna be huge numbers, but let's say $10,000 a year. And that's significant. But the downside is, there would be some changes, probably most noticeable by the public health department, because they use some remote connectivity stuff that would be affected by this. And we can continue doing that, and I can work them through the process, but it would be changing software from one type to another, which is more disruptive than just maintaining where we're at.
Is this gonna disrupt every office?
Well, during the actual work, it would, but that would be something I would plan to do at night, so.
But I mean, once it's in, Julie can sit down and it's gonna be just like now.
Yeah, although faster. So, presumably that would be the expectation. So especially when you do something like run a large report or something like that, where it's having to look at a database and crunch through a huge set of data, like say all of the parcels in the county. Operations like that would see a boost from this. What we bought 7 years ago was good equipment at that time, and nobody's really using their computer at home that's 7 years old anymore, unless you know that it's old and it's slow and you're okay with it. So anyway, I just wanted to see if you had any particular way that you wanted me to go about making a decision. I have requested a quote from NGT. I have not gotten one yet. I started talking to them a month ago, and we had a meeting about it, and I think they're working on something is what I was told, but I haven't gotten anything yet, so.
My opinion would be that, since they're both almost identical, that you can be in close contact with each department head and make sure that
everything is copacetic with them. And it's, to be honest, I don't know anything about it.
So do you have any idea how much the backup with IP pathways is gonna be?
I don't at this point. I think, I've been pretty transparent, with both companies, just, saying we need your best offer here. And, so I think they're gonna probably be in line, with where they're at right now, adding in that option. So I guess the part for me that I have, and I honestly don't have, I've been trying to come up with how I should make this decision in my mind as far as the manageability piece, because it's different software, like I said. And the one is, it's a more enterprise grade, it's the heavy duty truck, but it requires more skill to maintain. And the other one is a lighter duty truck, but it requires less skill to maintain. So I would, if everything was the same, I would rather just stay with what we have, because going through a software change is no fun if you don't need to do it. But that whole ability of me or, a reasonable IT person to maintain it without needing a specialist is a factor that's been kind of weighing on my mind.
So some of the information you're basing it on, as far as usability and user-friendly, is going back to some of your network of IT people that you talk to then?
Some, yeah. Franklin County is actually using this scale computing that's on the CDW. I talked to Gabe over there, their IT director, and he said they've been using it for about 2 years, and it's worked great. And they were in a different place when they started out, so it's not entirely apples to apples to me, but basically I went into this thinking, I want to make sure I do my research. I want to make sure that I'm, not just doing the same thing because that's what's worked for 7 years, so I'm just going to do it again and not ask for anybody else's quote or something like that. It's not fair to do that. It's not appropriate to do that.
You ever heard the saying, if it ain't broke?
Well, yes, I have. But
Okay, here's another, well, not opinion. I'd be very disappointed if we switch and all of a sudden Chris can't get on her computer for a week because we're fixing problems.
I would be too. That's definitely true. And, while that scenario could feasibly happen with either solution, it definitely would not be an expected result. So I guess, some of it comes down to if saving some money on IT consulting, basically with IP Pathways, is important, in putting more of that on me, which it's not a lot, but it's just, it's kind of like if I open up the hood of my car these days, or, like a mechanic of an older car and a newer car, it's like, oh, I used to be able to fix all this stuff, and now it's all electronic, and, and so you need the special equipment and the special technician. That's kind of the comparison that I'm going with here. And that doesn't mean that the new cars are bad and that we shouldn't drive them, but you just have different expectations when it comes to maintaining them.
Does it move that fast? I mean,
No, because it's not the difference of age here, it's the difference of ability of the system. They're
I
on.
mean, as far as you're concerned, and say something happens and come in and fix it, and you said, you used the car example, and you open up the hood, well, I can't fix this, I don't know anything about this. That's what I'm saying, it moves that fast that it changes?
Well, no, I mean, I didn't know, I knew about this much about it when we installed what we had, so I was very reliant on them. And in the meantime, I've learned, a lot about it, but there's still this much more that I don't know, because it is, like I mentioned, kind of enterprise grade equipment. And it's extremely powerful and extremely flexible and can be used to power organizations that have thousands of employees, which is not us. So to some extent, the scale option is a little bit more of the right size option. But, you know, there are probably a dozen or so counties that are running everything from IP Pathways, and it is, you know, not a bad direction by any means. But just when you have an IT department of one person, it makes me more reliant on the vendor support to.
And then the other company would be, you say possibility of saving $10,000 in IT costs down the road?
You know, it's a fuzzy number because it's trying to take into account problems and issues and changes that haven't happened yet. And so,
Whether you're feeling lucky or not.
kind of, yeah, I mean, you know, we could just put it in and say not touch it, but that would not follow the recommendations of the computer industry as far as applying updates, particularly for security when they're available, and that sort of thing is where some of this comes from. And not that it's that difficult to do it necessarily, but if something goes wrong, it can create a big issue, and it's not something that you do day in and day out. So for me, to do those things effectively takes more time, because I can pull up the documentation and I can work through it, but it might take me, you know, let's say 3 to 4 hours to do that. And if in the course of those 3 to 4 hours I get 3 phone calls of other people wanting things done, or, you know, whatever, it can make it challenging for me to get that focus time and do it when it's a process, like I said, that's not done every day, and I don't want to push the wrong button.
I don't know if you know. What's the other company? Yes,
IP Pathways and Scale Computing.
Scale. Do they both have the same support?
I mean, I can't speak to that because I haven't ever worked with Scale support before. The idea there has been that their solution is supposed to just work and not require as much maintenance. Not that either of them are high maintenance solutions, but I've talked to Gabe. He said he's called them a couple of times with a few issues, and they're very helpful. It's a much smaller company. They're really more of a startup. No, I don't want to call them a startup, but they're a much smaller company, and so their sales team has been very engaged. You know, they're really trying to find out how they can best serve us. They really would like us to be a customer. You know, nothing against IP Pathways. We've had a long relationship with them, and they've done excellent work as well. But there is something, you know, when it's a smaller company, smaller companies tend to value their customers more. You know, and I'm not saying we're not valued by any means by IP Pathways, we are. But it's the technologies of VMware and Cisco are these big companies that this is the equipment that they're selling us, which is excellent equipment.
Theirs is more of a one-size-fits-all.
Well, theirs is more of a, yeah, we can power your 10,000 employee company with our products, and, you know, they're used to working with a team of 50 IT people, and, you know, that's great, and it's great that they can flex it, but we're on the smallest end of their customer scale, whereas with Scale Computing, we're probably more in the middle. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Weigh it carefully. I would put
Believe me, I am.
A whole nother wrench may come in when next gen comes in.
Well, yeah, and so part of the deal with what's on the table right now, and I don't want to be cornered into making a decision, but it is Scale Computing's end of quarter today, and so tomorrow their pricing may change some. Although I know their team they really want to get us on board, so anything they can do is going to be good. And I did also include the 4 copies that have CDW stuff on it, because they're essentially the same thing from when we started talking about it at the beginning of March until a few days ago, And it started out around like 170,000. And then we kept talking about it, narrowing it down, and I said, well, you know, it's still really expensive. And they said, well, let's see if we can find you some discounts. And so they're trying really hard to bring us on as a customer. They downgraded the equipment a little bit in there too, and changed from 5 years of support to 3 years, which to make it a more manageable cost at the beginning. Some people buy, you know, like 5 years of support, which is something is absolutely necessary, but you can buy it year to year or in smaller blocks than that. So,
And this one was 3 years.
they're both 3 years. Yep.
What does HW and SWSBC as far as support, under support?
Oh, hardware and software. I think that's what you are looking at. Yeah, so anyway, like I said, I wanted to keep you guys in the loop. This is what I'm looking at. I think Pathways is going to try to come back with something that includes the DR option, as I call it, the backup disaster recovery option.
Why is there two, on page 1 of 2 on this?
Is it front? It should be front and back printed.
Well, you got a 3-year total on here, that's a support, I know, because it's at 2, but there's 2 places there that it has, support. One for
There's-
15,000, one for 9,000.
There are, there should be probably 3 places where it says support, because there's the support, the support for the main servers, the support for the backup server, and then the support for software components that do the remote desktop option for the public health department. And like the zoning person uses it. There's a couple of different people that use that remote option.
More so now than before.
Well, yeah.
Be the new normal.
Yep. So I guess, you know, I haven't done this in 7 years, so I didn't know if a purchase like this, if the board wanted to vote on it, or if you wanted to tell me, you know, this is why we hired you, make a good decision, or what is the right way to.
Well, I don't know what technically we could advise you on, so I mean,
You say NGT has got a ready to like this yet?
Well, I mean, they're supposed to be working on it, but like I said, I haven't seen it, so I don't know, you know, what.
give them a call.
Well, I have.
I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah.
And they can provide the same services as these companies, or?
I guess. Presumably.
I'm surprised at their footprint.
NGT.
Their footprint is small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, they provide hardware support, they provide software support.
GT,
Yeah.
they provide everything.
I don't know what they typically recommend for the remote access software piece. That may be different depending on, because I know they don't work specifically with the VMware that we have right now. And there's a thing called LeoStream in the scale quote that's the remote piece. And I am not aware that they work with that. So I don't know. Theirs would be a different option, I'm guessing. And, you know, the brand of equipment would be different as well.
Would it be more of a drastic change than you're saying?
Not necessarily. I think it would be different software again. They've typically, from what I know, have used what's called Hyper-V, which is the Microsoft. There's like VMware and there's Microsoft. There's the 2 big names in server software, and then like Scale Computing is a much smaller name. But as I've researched them, I've seen that they seem quite capable.
So I can understand. They wrote their own.
Yes, to some extent. They based it on what's called open source.
How big is this scale?
I don't know, like employee count or, I mean, like they're a small name in the world that has some really
That's
big
not necessarily
fish.
bad.
No. The interesting thing is they are doing the software and the hardware all under their one umbrella. So that's different than both NGT and IP Pathways because they're both just reselling other equipment. But the Scale people actually are building their own computers and have written their own software to run it all. So from the support aspect, that's really nice because sometimes when you have, software from one company and hardware from another company, they start going, well, it's not working because it's their problem. And finger pointing, and there's nobody to point the finger at here other than themselves. So, anyway, we don't
What's the full name of the?
scale computing, like scale, like weight. Although I think they're meaning it scale as in you can scale up. Because part of what their sales pitch is if you need more capacity, you can just buy another node, another server, and slap it in there, and it'll just sync in very seamlessly with the ones that they already have. Regardless of the solution, my expectation would be that employees that are using computers would have very little to any change that they would even notice, other than it would be faster.
Any idea when you'll be doing it?
Well, I need to do it this budget year. So if I ordered from Scale, or most likely anything, if I pulled the trigger today, we'd be doing it in maybe a month or so. By the time the equipment was purchased and arrived, and scheduled time to do the project and that kind of thing.
Pictures don't lie. You've got quite a few employees.
What are you finding there?
I'm just reading about them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, when I said, startup, they're not a startup in that they've got 5 employees working on somebody's garage by any means. They've been around for a number of years. Like I said, Franklin County started using them a couple years ago. And they've pointed me towards numerous references, hospital, companies with a couple hundred employees.
I guess I should be afraid to use them.
I'm not.
I'm probably more the type of person I'd like to eliminate the finger pointing part of it.
Yeah,
Eliminate what?
The finger pointing where you have the software and the hardware pointing at each other going,
Well,
it's not our problem.
yeah.
kind of like contractors at a jail.
That's why I said it.
Oh. Exactly. If you hire one company to do the whole thing, hopefully they're the only ones
Yeah,
that
I
are on
don't
the
care
hook
who
for
did
it.
it for you, it's your problem.
Yeah.
So with NGT, there would be 2 companies, is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, NGT doesn't make hardware and they don't make software. Just like IP Pathways doesn't make hardware and they don't make software. So anytime you're bringing components from different companies together, there's always that potential. Even if it's just software to software, trying to get 2 pieces of software to work together from different companies, they're always going to, even within the same company, like Tyler with, whether it's Eden and Encode or whatever, trying to talk to each other,
And with this scale or
scale.
they had all their own, everything you did, they're not, none of the.
Yeah.
Running with that one.
Yeah, I mean, they've put out, I'm sure they don't have their own manufacturing company where they're stamping out computer chips or anything like that. It gets run through something, but they're getting the specific equipment to their specifications. They're branding it as their own. They have the software that they've taken from what's available as an open platform, meaning not, you don't have to pay to use it, and modified it to fit what they're trying to accomplish, and then you know, turned it into this solution, this supposedly all-encompassing solution, you know, and you know, the sales pitch sounds wonderful. I didn't think I was gonna like it when I started talking to them, and then they started showing me all of this stuff, and it's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo, but I started going, wow, you know, that's pretty impressive, and, you know, wow, that was really easy. And if the sales pitch holds up, you know, it's very compelling, and that's why I'm even considering making a big jump. I told them yesterday, honestly, it's like standing on a diving board looking at a cold swimming pool. And, and I feel like they would do a good job and they'd be fine, but making the jump is a little difficult.
The salesman is always your best friend.
Oh, yeah, and I'm
You gotta
fully aware of
You gotta
that
make a
too.
decision on what they tell you, you know, and just assume, and I don't know what you mean by assume, but
Mhm.
assume they're telling you the truth. I mean,
Yep.
that's, obviously they've made it with other counties, so.
Yeah, they
I wouldn't be afraid of that.
No, and I have been working to overcome any fears or concerns, you know. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks especially thinking through every aspect, you know, the remote access piece, how the backups work, all of this. And every time I came up with a serious concern and asked them about it, they came up with a way to address that made sense to me too.
It'd be a pretty much seamless transition.
Well, it'll take a lot of work, but we will be in a good place.
Are we at a critical point to where we need to replace these? A critical point?
Yes.
Would they work another year? Would we work another year here with this, what we have?
I would not call it wise to continue.
It's not gonna get any faster.
No, I know, but
Well, even in
There's
our
other
computers, our
considerations.
day-to-day work, you can tell that it's
yeah,
significantly slowed down from where it was.
but I think there was some other considerations that I thought we should talk about.
It's, you know, with the money being available in this budget year,
Yeah.
And we did not budget for this project next year, you know, to me, it needs to be done now. And 7 years is a long time for servers. When I've told other IT people, yeah, I'm working on getting our servers replaced, how old are they? Well, me, 7 years. Wow, you know, you've had a good run with them. Better get those new ones in there. You know, and they've been really solid, but I don't want to get to the day when they're not, because then we're going to start having all kinds of problems. So, and it is also, you know, I have paid for the support, you know, so that we can call the manufacturer, and if something blows up, they'll replace it, or, you know, talk us through the technical way to fix it or whatever. And this, as you have older equipment, they keep charging more and more for the support because it's more likely to break and more likely to need replacement.
Kind of like buying warranty on an older car.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, same thing. You know.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah. So, basically, I guess I need to know, do you want me to bring a final quote to you guys to approve? Or is that a decision that you want me to make?
Unless it's grossly different than what you just looked at. I don't see a problem with that. I guess I would be interested to see NGT's bid on this also, if they want.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But they've also got to
no,
put it
they,
together.
yeah, no, maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe that's why you haven't gotten it.
And to reiterate Terry's point, the finger pointing, that's gotta be the huge plus.
It seems like definitely a huge potential benefit.
Yeah.
You know, it's unrealized at this point. I don't know, and I can't know what the future holds, but it, you know, and it hasn't been a huge issue. I don't know that it's always a huge issue, but it is an issue that people in general, you know, in the IT world run into. And
Every business.
yeah, well,
We've
you're right.
experienced it.
You're right. Yep. So, you hope that it never happens, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does. One concern that I have with NGT is just, you know, they do have a big footprint, they've grown a lot, and I hear different comments from different people from time to time about, oh, you know, it's taken a long time to get support on something, or, you know,
It has some growing pains a little bit.
well, yeah, and good for them for growing. And I don't want to not be a part of that, especially supporting local business. I don't, you know, absolutely.
I know our last 911 meeting, we were doing our budget, and they didn't show up.
Oh, were they, and they were supposed to, or, yeah, so, you know, I guess I just hear things like that from time to time, and it just.
But then you have the other side too, you know, one board I used to be on, they was love it.
Yeah, you know, so I think it's just something that would need to be addressed up front and managed carefully. And then the other thing is their company, what do they call it? Their mission statement is to, and I don't want to misquote it, but it's not word for word, but to fill the void with companies who can't hire a full IT team by being the IT department for those companies. And so, to some extent, we're not necessarily, as I've understood, their ideal customer, since we have an IT person. And I'm not saying I don't want to be here, but their mission statement puts it out in such a way that if I weren't here, they would be a better fit for us. So I guess, please don't fire me.
This would be more of an expansion of their mission.
Yeah, and so, you know, that was a conversation that I had with Brad, their salesperson, is, you know, is that going to work? Because we, you know, early on we were using them more, and then after a couple of years, we just kept running into issues where they were used to being in charge of every piece of the entire environment, and here, you know, I was taking care of most things, but then saying, okay, I'd like your help to do this project or to do this project, and they didn't necessarily know everything that was going on. And it was very difficult. We tried, but it was very difficult to do the data to communicate back and forth as much as necessary to keep everybody in sync with the whole thing.
How do you think that hinders you? If you don't know something you're working on, you gotta ask for support.
Well, I don't think it's realistic for one person.
No, I'm not saying it is, no. I'm just asking, how much do you think it hinders you by being the only person?
Here?
Yeah.
I mean, so you're asking me, is it a hindrance to be the only person? And would I prefer seeing no IT person or
I mean,
two
you
IT
feel a
people?
lot of weight that,
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding what
okay,
you're
let me see if I
asking.
can think of a better way of asking. Do you feel intimidated by being the only person here?
Well, not intimidated, but I feel like there's a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm asking.
yeah, and, so, but that I don't feel that it's necessarily inappropriate either. I just know that as I'm making decisions, I have to think long term. I have to think, what are the ramifications of this for everyone else that works here? And, if for some reason I get hurt or I'm out for some reason, what's going to happen? Or if I take a different job at some point, what's going to happen? Because I don't want, it would be a disservice on my part to leave you guys in a position if something happened to me, heaven forbid, or if I took a different job, where it was just a total unknown disaster, you know, and I'm aware of counties that have had situations like that and businesses that have had situations like that. Literally, I know of a business in town that their IT person was one guy that had an IT business and he got killed in a car accident. And they knew nothing about how everything was set up. And it took, I'm going to say, years before they had everything figured out.
So do you use the network of the other county IT people?
I do, yep. And, you know, IP Pathways has established themselves as a very reputable vendor, and they're working with a lot of different counties, so they're very familiar with what we're doing in that regard. I know NGT takes care of
How much is that
County.
From our perspective, money-wise, well, is that worth a good chunk of change to you, or if it was your own business, would that be worth it?
The way I approach things is I like to work with people who have, you know, experience with, you know, what we're doing. And I, you know, at this point, I think all three of these companies that we've talked about do have that experience. But, you know, there's experience and then there's ability to execute. And I would say IP Pathways' ability to execute is second to none from what I've experienced directly. You know, if they say they're going to do it, they will make it happen. And, you know, it's a larger company, they have more resources at their ability, and they put a lot of time and effort into the planning of projects and the implementation schedule, and everything is very planned out. And that can be helpful, especially in an environment like this where if we were down for a day, it would be a bad deal. It's so you know, so being the only IT person, one thing I would say is, you know, I know of counties that even have like a part-time IT person. I'm not going to ask you to hire somebody right now or anything, but I do think that is wise from a planning perspective of if something did happen to me, or if I did take another job, or, you know, whatever the case may be, that there's somebody else that's been here, that knows everybody, that's familiar with what takes place on a day-to-day basis, and, you know, it you know, could feasibly be some sort of a succession plan. Now, that could be a vendor as well, but there's not going to be a vendor that's here in the building on a regular basis, you know, getting to know everybody, just observing the day-to-day work. That's just not how vendors
I don't know how it works, but I'll just pick on IP. Since they're the server, do they know all the offices that you're going to use the server? Obviously, every office does. Does IP know how to handle each office?
Well, IP Pathways has focused, I've used them at a very foundational level, like the network and the servers. And as far as, you know, people in the department heads and their staff, that's a lower level than they deal with. The applications are running up here, and
I'm just saying,
that's
say
what they
you
react to it.
Can
IP
they
Pathways,
come in and I know it costs,
yeah,
you know, more than we want to pay, but
they do it. They probably wouldn't be my first choice on that. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that as the day-to-day support, because they have very skilled people that work for them at, you know, high dollar an hour rates, and I'm sure they could fix anything in this building that was broken. I have no doubt in that, but I don't think it would necessarily be the best use of their time and our money to, you know, it's like having the rocket scientist working on your car or whatever.
maybe this is the best way of putting it. It's like a doctor. Would a general practitioner be able to come in here of an IT
Yes,
and fix things?
that's been the approach that I've taken from day one. Is
General practitioner would be supported by the specialists.
yeah,
That were, I mean, that's where a bigger company has an advantage, because they can have people, you know, specialize in different areas of everything.
Yeah,
Where you have to know a little bit about everything, some of those guys just specify one problem or whatever. I'm
This
sure.
kinda got off track, we're,
Well, it all pertains to who we're
Yeah.
gonna go with, so.
I'm not a medical professional, so I don't mean this. I'm sure medical people would maybe take issue. I'd maybe call myself a nurse practitioner who knows most of the things that a general doctor would know. I'm not maybe at a general doctor level. I mean, maybe I am on some things, but
But
yeah,
you brought
then a
up-
specialist.
If we
Yeah.
had to replace them, you brought that up.
Mhm.
So I'm saying, are there people out there that aren't the high level guys?
I would, if Eric left, I'd call NGT. That's who I would call. And I would say, you know, if we had a problem.
Or
That-
another county IT.
Alright. That answers the question.
Well, are you gonna get a hold of NGT and see whether they wanna put in a bid or not, or?
I mean, I've asked for one, and I said, trying to think of what I said. Yeah, so I guess the question is, you know, with the offer on the table from Scale, we want to just tell them, well, we're going to wait, because we want to hear what NGT has to say, and know that the price may go up some, or
What does the end of their order have to do with it? I mean, they wanna hit a benchmark, that last
I suppose they
order?
get discounts from certain,
anybody that's in sales, they always have their end of usually they do it by quarters, and they have their end of the period that they want to hit their goals. And so whether it's their boss or the company or whoever, they always can throw more discounts and incentives. Not always, but oftentimes they will. It's something I've run into over and over again from dozens of companies.
How long ago did you start this conversation with them to get these quotes?
I'm trying to think. It
Well,
was this year.
in thinking about it, you said that you wouldn't be disappointed going with IP either, so,
Mhm.
I say wait.
Okay.
Cause you've got the backup of IP, so.
Mhm.
is IP's, quote, got a deadline?
I think what you're looking at may actually be past its deadline, but at this point, they've told me, you know, when you're ready to do it, if that's what you want to move forward with, we'll get it updated with the current date. It's possible the price could change a little bit, but they weren't like, they didn't have it set up like Scale where they're like, you know, we really want this sale, and we're throwing everything we got at it.
It's possible it could go down too, there's a lot of things going down in price. Because there's a lot less demand for a lot of things.
I won't say it's impossible.
Relatively unlikely, probably. It is possible. I can't think of any.
You want that in the motion?
We don't have an actionable item.
Just discuss.
No.
So, okay, well, I will wait and see what NGT comes back with.
I would give him a reminder on it,
Mm-hmm.
or I can talk to Brian if you want.
I guess I personally would way heavy the finger pointing, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
What she said, it hasn't been a lot of that.
But then it's also inclusive of the backup part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, theoretically, any of them are capable of including that, and, you know, and even hitting it at the same price if they scale down the level of equipment and that kind of thing.
If you're buying both from one entity, that one entity has to support whatever problems come from, you know, the two companies that they have are the finger pointing, but you bought them from these guys, so those guys are responsible to take care of the finger pointing in a sense, I would think.
Yeah, yep. And in fairness to IP, the solution that they've proposed is, even though it uses components from separate companies, it's a best practice solution. They call it a flex pod, and it's something that the companies of NetApp and Cisco have actually, and VMware have agreed to all work together on. So to some extent, they have addressed that concern with that, because those companies, even though they are separate, have agreed formally to work together on it. But it is still three separate companies, and with the ability to have potentially more issues, or maybe Scale has more issues because they're smaller and they don't have as big of a team to test everything. You know, it's speculation. It's hard to know. I wouldn't expect to have significant problems with either of them, aside from the ability to manage it myself as a small IT department.
I do understand what you're saying as far as, it's kind of like putting a John Deere planter on an International or Case IH tractor.
Yeah.
It can be done, but sometimes there's finger pointing.
Yeah, and you know, I would say
They all got to sync with each other's computers.
yeah, and these are not head-to-head competing companies necessarily, because they don't do what the other company is doing. They have their own niche.
Yeah, that's
So let's say maybe it's a
slightly
Kinsey
different.
planter because they don't make tractors, but you know, whatever.
Okay, well, we'll give NGT one last chance to get a bid in, and then we'll discuss it further, I guess.
Okay.
I'd call and give them a real close deadline so we can get back.
Yeah, no, it would be.
To scale.
Mhm.
You know,
I'm pretty sure I told Brad that we were going to talk about it today. So I was hoping that.
Yeah, maybe they're just too busy, don't want to do it too, it's possible. Give you an answer one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I absolutely don't want to exclude them and not give
if
them a
they're out of
chance.
it, I'd move on something.
Well, I'll call them when we get off it, when we get done.
All right, finished on that one, fine. All right, discussion regarding work from home policy.
I asked for this to be put on because I think it's something that is worth looking at as far as countywide, particularly in this situation that we're in right now with the COVID-19.
Let him finish reading.
Sure.
Could I see a copy?
Yeah.
Do you have more copies, Carmen?
Yes.
All right.
night of this courthouse pretty much being vacated, haven't seen one person except that works in here yet today. Is there a reason why you want? What's the reason why you want?
Well, I think working from home should be considered as an option for every department during this time where feasible, and understand it's not feasible in many cases. But, you know, with what's going on and the recommendations from the president and the governor and the public health department, being that everybody should stay. Well, I mean, you know, there's how many states at this point that have a stay-at-home order, and the recommendation has been made, if you can work from home, you should. I think it's something that is worth looking at. I mean, the idea is to cut down on the number of interactions and contact points, and the potential for this virus to be
Whatever time
spread.
you come to work, how much do you interact with other people?
On a typical day, it can vary a lot. You know, some days I'm in every department.
Is that interaction necessary?
Typically, yes.
Well,
Although,
then doesn't that require you to be here then?
I get,
I mean, I would hate to come from home, drive up here from home all the time.
no. And so I have, you know, over the last year or so been utilizing a remote support tool where I can connect to somebody's computer and view their screen and work together with them on the phone. So, you know, that's a very usable option at this point, and something that I'm trying to do. You know, there's certain things like if the toner in somebody's printer needs to be replaced, I've typically done that, and they don't always know how to do it, so, you know, I would need to do that kind of thing.
The remote stuff you can do from your office too, as far as that goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also received a message from Kelsey just a few minutes ago. She said, I have court today, so I can't call into the Board of Supervisors meeting, just some other not legal related reasons against amending the work from home policy. 1, not available to all employees, and 2, accountability when hourly employee is working from home with distractions, etc. I think it should be reserved for extreme situation like the current policy reads. Maybe if the employee has serious medical condition making him or her very susceptible, and even then it would be up to the department head to determine if it's appropriate or not. We don't even have a case yet in Winnebago County.
I do think it's something that needs to be considered, especially as the handbook is being looked at, rewritten here, or, you know, revised at some point, because there are people that work from home to some extent on a regular basis, myself included, doing things in the evening sometimes, like rebooting a server that has updates. I don't know that it's really necessary or more productive for me to drive over here so that I can do that. The Veterans Affairs Office has a situation where there's people working from home on a regular basis. The zoning administrator works from home on a regular basis.
But he's at a need-be basis. He gets called on situations. So he doesn't know when he's gonna get called. So,
But the policy doesn't allow for that. So I think it needs to be revised.
well, it's more difficult, I think, too, because your boss is the 3 of us, and we're not here, you know. And it's very hard to oversee, you know, what a normal boss would oversee.
It's understandable. And, you know, and I'm not saying I want to work from home 100% of the time for, you know, forever or anything like that. I am saying I think we need to look at this policy because I don't know that we're actually following it right now.
Do you feel you're in danger here?
I'm not particularly concerned about my health, but I am concerned about the health of many people here in the building. I think whether they feel that way or not, according to the news and information that's put out, there are likely people that work here that are more susceptible to this particular virus. And, the reason for using the remote support tool and not going to people's offices is that, I don't want to unknowingly be that person that carries it around to somebody who otherwise would not have been affected. So, that's something I'm going to do regardless of what chair I'm sitting in or what room I'm sitting in. It's not visit people unless it's essential.
It's interesting that she made this determination in light of what she's doing.
But
She's in
has a
high
note from
risk.
her doctor saying that she cannot come in.
And I'm not advocating for it, but
I have had department heads ask me, what options are available to work from home. I guess if there is no option to work from home, then I need to, change my answer on that. I guess my thought. The policy doesn't explain any way to actually be approved for working from home.
those two that asked you, in your opinion, did they work at home?
I think so. I mean, at least the computer part of their job. I know a lot of the departments here have files or records in the vault or whatever that they use on a regular basis, or they need to have the public coming in and interacting, making payments or turning in paperwork or whatever. And, obviously that is not conducive to being anywhere other than in your office with the building open. But, like I said, I don't think we're compliant with the current policy as it sits.
Why?
The current policy says employees are not allowed to work at home except in situations of extreme emergency and short duration, and only as approved by the appropriate department head.
Right. So where are we on compliant?
Well, like I just mentioned, with veterans and zoning, public health.
But are they under their, let's see, I suppose they have their own boards. What supersedes the other, the policy book or?
Well, everybody's supposed to
I believe
follow
it's
the
a
policy book.
Yeah.
But if that board, say, public health board, makes a determination with that, and they can change that part of it temporarily to allow them to work remotely.
Well, I mean, this has been an ongoing situation for years at this point. I'm not talking about temporary with the departments that I just brought up. So I mean,
If there wasn't a COVID situation right now, would you think you would have still brought this up?
probably not right at this point.
But eventually.
But yeah, I mean, when we were, the handbook has been,
Doesn't that go against the job description that we gave you when we hired you? We wanted you here so that you could run across to the other office and fix something real quick.
well, I'm not asking to work from home 100% of the time for the foreseeable future. I'm just saying that we need to look at this policy because it's not fitting our needs in a regular basis.
Whose
Aside from
Whose need?
the Department of Veterans, the Department of Zoning, the Department of Public Health. and my department also, because like I said, I do log in and, you know, run updates and reboot servers from home. You know, quite frankly, sit in a chair and watch TV and wait for a server to reboot. You know, I don't know that I'm really going to get any more done if I was here in the office than that. It's unfortunately just a part of any IT person's life is waiting for stuff to reboot, keeping an eye on it. You can set it to do it automatically and, you know, then check and make sure that it works, and I've done some of that, but not everything can be automatic or should be automatic either, so.
I have a question. Do other counties at all have that option, like in your position?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, I mean, I would guess the majority of county IT people that I know, you know, work from home on occasion at least, some more than less or whatever. And, you know, the same thing applies if I am at a meeting or something like that. You know, I can use the same tools that I have to provide support if there's something urgent that pops up. You know, and particularly right now with the current situation, the COVID-19, you know, the recommendations from the governor and everyone else, you know, there's businesses here in town throughout the entire country that are asking all of their employees to work from home. They're literally not having anybody come to the office. I don't know about counties. I mean, I know Humboldt County is going to do something apparently to split the office staff so that non-essential employees would stay home for a week at a time.
So that we have to kind of figure out, are you essential? Do you think you're essential? I do.
Well, I would not want to see the county without an IT person for a length of time.
Give me a scenario where you want to stay at home. What would be the reason for you to stay at home? Put it that way.
Well, I think the reason to stay at home that's been offered by the governor and the public health department is to limit interactions.
But you said this would eventually be brought up had there not been a coronavirus situation.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what would be a situation where you want to work from home?
like I mentioned already, in the evening, doing server updates. You know, and that might take half an hour to 3 hours, and I have even had it where I was doing it and something didn't go right and I lost my remote connection, and so then I had to drive in anyway. But, you know, as far as that particular situation and me doing my job, it allows, you know, the flexibility is beneficial to me as an employee because I am able to be with my family more at that point and be a better dad to my kids without, you know, because if I'm just waiting for a server to reboot, it's not exactly something that.
Are you up here after work a lot? I mean, after your what, 4:30?
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
I'm usually here till at least 4:45 or 5, and you know, like I said, the Windows updates for servers are something that come out once a month, and I try to apply them once a month, and so that means probably at least 2, maybe 4 hours of work in an evening, whether I was here or at home.
That can't be done during the day?
No, because that means that everybody is kicked out of their systems, and I usually do it, you know, 9, 10 o'clock at night because the public health department has people that work remotely and or maybe log in the evening to do some charting, and you know, so I don't want to reboot it while they're using it either. And, you know, I mean, I could do it in the middle of the day if we scheduled an outage and I told everybody, okay, at 2 o'clock today, you can't use your computers anymore, and then I could do it and have it done by 5 o'clock, but that would mean nobody could use their computers and applications.
Oh, how do you know about that?
I guess the point of all of this was,
He's already doing that stuff from home. I mean, it's just that he chooses to.
Yeah, I know, but
That's
that, in essence, he's working overtime.
And, that's kind of in the, almost in the job description, because you can't do those things when other people are using the computers, so it has to be done after hours, and it's been that way ever since computers have been around, so.
when I did the IT for the county and I was,
What's AC?
what's that?
IT, she said.
When I did the IT for the county, I would stay late and do the updates late.
And I don't have a problem with him doing that stuff from home. If he's doing it in the evening, if he wants to choose to do it from home, that's fine, but during the work day,
I think,
Well, but the
and like I
policy
said, the
doesn't
reason this
allow
was
it.
brought up is because he was working from home. I asked him if he'd asked anyone for permission to work from home, and he hadn't. And people in my office and other places have asked me, can I work from home? And I've told them no, because it's not effective. So I feel like there needed to be permission before people can do this.
Carla, this is Julie. I have a person in my office that has an autoimmune deficiency, and she requested to work from home, and we have made it work because I scan, we email, and she does her job from home. And she just started that on Friday.
that's a different situation in a sense, because she already has a pre-existing condition where she's more at risk. And if that were the case here, nobody here would have a problem with that person working from home.
All right, then my other two who are doing video chats for our grant that is for healthy families, they have families that have the same thing, and they don't want to, those families who my workers go out and visit, they do not, they do video chat with their families, and then they come to the office and do their work. But instead, so they're doing both, working from home and at work. And it's only going to happen during this COVID-19 business.
Nobody's moving around much, so that the odds are all pretty slim anyway, especially when there's no cases going to Winnebago County.
Well, yesterday on my webinar with the IDPH person and the governor, if you do recall them saying yesterday, that they said just because your county does not have a case, you cannot presume you do not have one. You have to presume you do have one, and those people are staying self-isolated and trying to help. So just because our county says zero, we here in our public health office are not presuming that we have zero. We're presuming those people are staying home. Because even if you have a cold, you need to stay home. Recommendation from IDPH and the governor.
Would it cost a motion to be able to work from home if you can during this situation? Only in this situation. Goes back to normal afterwards?
And I think like what Kelsey says,
I know what she said. She said it doesn't matter.
well, she said,
Follow the policy.
the problem is it's not available to all employees. And the accountability from home. And
Right.
maybe that's not a big deal, but I worked
Well,
from home for a couple of weeks, and I know firsthand that there's things that you have to be here to do. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's up to you guys. I don't know what the answer is. This is a tough situation for everybody. And like I said, I just feel like it needs to be a more uniform solution than one person I just decided I'm going to work from home just because I can. Well, I think there needed to be some supervisor input on this.
But the accountability, he's either gonna work or he's not. And I'm saying, whether he is here, he's in a tough position to hold him accountable, to work. So, and that's not an argument for going ahead.
What do you guys think?
Well, I think he should be able to decide if needs to be at home, work from home. If there's a situation here in the courthouse that needs to be handled, he comes in and he takes care of it. We've all got his phone number.
I think he's in a unique position.
He is.
To where he's close when he's at home. He's not that far away.
Yeah,
And he has small children at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he
his
should,
daycare hasn't closed or anything like that, I mean,
No,
they.
but he is his own person and,
I guess if I was sitting in the auditor's office, or the auditor, every person that gets out of the courthouse, I'd be in favor of. It's just one less possibility of me getting it, but, and if you got people in your office that can work from home, I'd tell them to go home myself.
and some counties are doing by shifts in their departments to keep their full staff healthy
Yeah. And still get paid.
and still get paid.
Right.
Unfortunately, like our two offices, it's kind of hard to do any work from home because we rely on our computers and paperwork and money, which I wouldn't allow going into our homes. But, it's just a tough thing, but I can see where Eric is coming from, where there's different people already doing this. It's not stated in the policy that they can.
and probably we do need to change the policy.
I agree with Eric.
Yeah, and as a department head yourself,
Well, is he a department head or are we his department head?
Well,
I
he's
don't
kind
know.
of himself.
We are the department head.
Yeah, I think.
It's
Gotta
just like
answer
Scott.
to you guys.
It's the same way with Scott.
Well, Scott is the head of his department, but he reports to you. I report.
Right, when you're not
I mean,
elected,
you know,
you're appointed.
I'm a department of one. It's kind of a joke if you look at it like that, but
And department heads at one time used to report to all of you guys too, and I still feel we should.
Well, in a sense, you all.
I don't know the answer to this. I'm just curious. Carla, did the board approve you working from home for the 2 weeks? I don't know.
No, that was mandated.
That's a quarantine.
Who mandated it?
The
Anybody.
federal government.
Well, but you said.
I
you
was
did-
told by emergency management to stay home.
And, but you didn't meet the 14 requirement.
Tell me back.
I mean, I'm just
I think
asking.
she did.
Well,
From what I
and I agree that it was right for her to stay home, but my question was, did you get permission to work from
But I'm
home?
an
We all
elected official.
we're quibbling over.
Well, this is retroactive. In that situation, we would have given her permission to stay home. So we would have, department heads over her in a sense. Someone traveling from overseas is got a much higher rate of exposure than anybody that's traveling around.
Or even coming from New York.
Kelsey says
Yeah,
elected
coming from
officials
New
do
York.
not need permission from the Board of Supervisors. We don't apply to the policy.
Okay. So.
Yeah, elected officials
the
only have to
department
show
head-
up once a quarter for to keep their jobs.
So
Until
the elected
election.
officials, if they want to work from home, that's okay, and it doesn't matter what the policy says.
And we're a different breed.
I think it says right in the policy book we're exempt.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I didn't have that clarification. Thanks.
But I guess I'd like to see us do everything we can to go by the governor's recommendations to, allow as much limited contact as possible if we can. It's not gonna be fair across the board, because, some departments just can't manage it that way, and
Right.
but if there are some that can, I think it should be up to the department heads to make that decision, to allow it.
Do you think you'll split up your departments? Like you talked about?
I don't think at this time.
No.
No. We've talked about it, but I guess everybody's been healthy and staying. I've got one that has a second job, but been doing okay.
This is Julie again. As for public health, we are doing, my girls still have to go out and see their patients because we're still doing our stuff. But if they can go home and chart from home, we have allowed that before. If they're up, like, say they live in the Thompson area and their last patient is Buffalo, they go home and chart. And as for accountability, I pretty much know, and we can tell by our CareFax program, if they're on or not and doing their job for 8 hours. So I don't have a problem as a department head letting some of them work from home when they have to chart. But I also feel that to help with this virus, since we are the heart of it, that we do need to do our best to limit our contact with other people right now with the social distancing, and if anyone can work from home, let that possibly be an issue at this time, because it will be just for a short lived, we're hoping.
We can beat this to the whole too.
So if you would send part of your crew home, like some of the gals would go home, are they paid to be at home, or would they have to take, it'd be under this?
That would be my,
I would hope that the federal FEMA thing would help us cover that. I don't know if we're
in fact,
already
I'm
paying the
not so
salary.
sure that we have, I think we have to. It's part of this, don't you? Yeah.
In the corner.
Well, to move this along, I'm gonna make a motion to allow those who can to stay.
I think
There's nothing
It's
on
not
there to make a
actionable.
motion, so
Kelsey
that's-
said that if you
Oh, I'm sorry.
wanted her to, she would work on a policy that would allow for work from home at this time.
I think are we all in agreement
I
that
think
she
so.
should probably work something up?
Yep.
You okay with it, Bill?
I don't know, I guess it's one of those situations to be created that if, you have to take the absolute most extreme measures for something that is so, I mean, there's just not a lot of risk here. I don't know if there's, we're all social distancing,
Are we? We don't know.
well, yeah, I don't know. It's,
I've watched, 3 people go by Chris and touch her, just walked in and out. There's people who walk in and out here.
but none of us are going anywhere where we're being in contact with people that are, have knowingly infected, I guess, as far as, I mean, and there are very few people coming in and out of towns, all that, I mean, the actual chances of something happening are so slim.
But IDPH said you have to react as if you know there's somebody here and you have to
Well,
protect
then
them.
we should shut down and we should all go home. But why are we here walking by each other?
Well, you know, I have wondered that.
It's a fair
Why
question,
we
I
just
think.
No,
Is Worth County doing remote supervisor meetings?
yeah, they're trying to set up a system right now where they can have it on their county website or whatever, video-wise. It's not on YouTube, but it's,
Do people have to see you guys?
Well, the thing is, the governor, came out with that notice, was it a week or two ago, that our offices kind of have to, she called us essential because, like I said last week, because of the real estate industry right now, they want our records, they want to be able to access them.
Well, I know it, but so do the employees of restaurants.
I know, but she didn't,
And they've been told they can't do it.
tell us that. She wants.
Our office could handle anything that needed to be handled at home. And Eric was kind enough to get in contact with me due to my situation and offered to set up a laptop to give me the ability to do as much as possible from home. I don't want to be home. It's going to drive me nuts.
There's none of us that can make a determination as to how serious this is.
No.
No,
And so, you know, if you're gonna err, I would hate for, in a situation now, for you to come down with COVID-19,
I know.
you know, it would, you know, I don't know.
So there's some departments that really don't work from home necessarily. Maybe they should be the ones at the discretion of the department head to decide, maybe we should split our shifts, where one week, you know, certain people are there and the next week you switch.
I would advise that.
And then the ones that can work from home, the department head can make that determination that certain people can work from home and to try to limit the contact. I don't know.
Take New York, for example. New York went without much activity on this COVID-19, and all of a sudden, bang, it is an epidemic. And
In fairness, we're much more spread out than they are.
Yes,
But if we
understand that.
continue, I agree, with business as usual.
And they also have people that are traveling worldwide constantly. If you go sit and watch their airports in and out of the major cities, there's people that are going all over the world all the time, literally millions of them. So there are chances that there's always gonna be much worse in a urban area than it is in a rural area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I had a thought as far as all these elderly that retire or that are down south for the winter and now are coming back. A lot of them are from Florida, a lot of them from Texas,
Arizona.
California, Arizona.
And a lot of them are self-quarantining.
Yeah.
Not just came back from Vegas for the winter.
Yeah, a lot is the part that,
Self-quarantining.
yeah. You know, some people aren't taking it seriously and some are taking it very.
So, which is the reason I call us flyover country, is all the people that are traveling all over the world, most of them aren't from here.
Our rate of infection has doubled every 3 days, like they said it would. And if you-
Also, what's going up with that is our rate of testing.
But we've only tested, as of like Saturday, about maybe Julie would know, but 7,000 people. We're not pushing real hard in this state to test,
Oh, no, not.
unless they're
not
showing the signs.
The rates, you're talking the rate in Iowa. Or you're
Yeah, in
talking
Iowa,
national?
if you look at what it would look like by the end of this month, you don't want to see that number.
Yeah, well, like
Multiply.
Dr. Burke said on the news conference yesterday, she said, it starts at 20, it goes to 200, it goes to 2,000, then to 20,000. It jumps that
It's
fast.
exponential, and by the end of the month, if you do the math, it's hundreds of thousands.
I'll work for a penny for you, Jay, and double it every day for a month.
What's that?
I'll work for a penny a day, but you gotta double it every day for a month. I'll work for that.
You'd be all right then, yeah.
It's like $13 million, something like that.
So I guess I'm still adamant about we need to do everything we can, however it works for each department to limit contact, but still get our jobs done.
So do you want me to have Kelsey work on a policy?
What do you guys,
I'm with you, Terry.
okay?
I'm not necessarily against it.
No, I know.
There's not gonna be one size fits all. I think it's gonna have to be up to the department head to determine what's best for their department.
And I'm a big sticker, though, too, on accountability. But this isn't a typical,
No, it's not a situation, but then also, are we making it worse than it needs to be? You know, you get.
well, if you can answer that,
I talked to one guy who was just about 90 years old, his son went to the grocery store. And I asked him, what are you doing here? You know, he's a friend of mine, I'm just joking around with him, and he says, the viruses have been trying to kill me for 90 years, so this is the one that gets me, it's the one that gets me.
well, see, that's his
See,
personal opinion.
that's his personal opinion.
And that's fine. He doesn't care if he dies.
Well, no, not necessarily, he doesn't care if he dies, he just,
Well, yeah.
he thinks his risk, for whatever reason, he thinks his risk is not.
Due to years of experience.
Yeah, very easy experience.
But Bill, on that note, he could be a carrier and giving it to you and not knowing it, and you could come down sick in just a few days.
He's been nowhere but the grocery store
That-
at home, the odds of that are pretty slim.
I know, but just what I'm saying, that's why they're wanting the social distancing and all of this, so they don't overwhelm the healthcare and the hospital. We only have so many respirators to give, to put people on. And we don't want to end up like New York or Italy where we have to decide, or the doctors have to decide, who's going to live and who's going to die.
We're beating a dead horse here. I'll give you my opinion. You department heads do what you want. You know, I think you have the authority to do
But I
that.
think we have to pass a policy to allow for that.
And I'm not sure what
Under-
Kelsey would
under-
say, but
If,
maybe we could have
that would
her,
come under the extreme emergency because we're declaring an extreme emergency, so therefore we don't need a different
We
policy.
can do that right now.
Because this is an extreme emergency.
And we-
so-
yeah,
but it
without
still
it being on
says
the
short
agenda.
duration, which would be,
Yeah, hopefully it's for a short duration.
You read the notification, agenda notification.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, this is an
We
emergency.
can do it today if we wanted to.
That's what I was thinking. Through motion, we could just say, for the time being, until we have better documentation, we can allow the department heads to make their own determinations on what's best for
For their office.
protecting their offices,
Because right now it's an extreme emergency.
while still maintaining the ability to do your jobs.
And hopefully it's not gonna last very long.
I can make, I know I was talking to the IT guy at Benton County, and he said their county had asked each department head to come up with a plan of what you would do, either for minimal staffing or work from home, and submit it. Just a suggestion. I
And
don't
then
know.
approve each one.
Well, basically what they did is they asked.
Yeah, but they're a big county,
Well, they're maybe twice our size.
Yeah.
so
Regardless, they asked everybody to come up with what their department would do and submitted it to the board. And then at that point, the board said, okay, we're gonna allow this temporarily or whatever. I don't know that it's a great idea or not, but it's another option that I heard about. Definitely would want
I
to
guess
hear
I have
what
enough
Kelsey
trust in the department heads
suggested.
here to,
Well, that's kind of where I'm at. We're in a situation with the COVID-19 that we need to trust our department heads that we've worked with over the years to do the best for their department and the county.
I think every person that works here is well aware that the public expects us to do a good job and not take advantage of situations or waste money or resources.
They can certainly keep us updated on any changes within their departments.
well, it's either, in my opinion, if I was you, Julie, if I was running the office of treasurer, I would split my gals up, or whoever the assistants are, because who knows? Two of them get it, then you guys are on pins and needles. They're gone anyway. So, and then you guys sit on pins and needles for 2 weeks to, am I gonna get it? You know?
Even with rotating shifts, you're gonna have almost the same exposure because the virus can live for a long time on a doorknob or a counter or, I mean, that's where, you know, you've gotta do due diligence as far as cleaning, things like that, but, I'm not exactly sure. I think the only thing that will really make any difference is if we all just decide to stay home.
You can cut it down. How does that work? If half your office is gone one day or a week?
well,
or-
the city right now is doing half the employees are working and half the employees are home
For how long?
for a week at a time.
Week at a time.
And in order to get paid, you have to be in your home. You can't be out gallivanting around.
Saragordo County's been doing that for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I think it's prudent because, you know what, on Friday night, you clean the doorknobs, you clean the, you know, the other gals aren't gonna be touching the other gals' desks.
No, everybody's on their own.
I would hope that more often than Friday nights,
Well,
they're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
sanitizing.
Yeah, we've been doing ours daily.
I think it's just prudent, so.
I know there's a local bank that's doing that same thing as well.
You guys, this is Julie again. One of our recommendations that we have to do for us and our nurses going out and our aides, and for us even to come to work, is we have to take our temperature every morning and every night and have a log. That's come down from us from CMS because we see the elderly. But for you guys, as having department heads and all your workers there, that would not be a bad idea for everyone to start taking their temperature.
If we could get thermometers, I've tried.
Yeah, I know that. We have an order in, it'll be about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
So,
I've been trying for 2 weeks and it's just out of stock. Well, I would feel comfortable in our ability, since this is an emergency situation, that we can make a motion to allow the department heads to manage their departments, whether it be through the work at home or splitting shifts, in the best interest of the safety of their department and in the best interest of the safety of the county.
I'll second that motion.
Motion from Derby and a second from Stenderud. As Terry stated, I guess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If you run out of Purell, just put isopropyl alcohol in it. That's what I did, and I sprayed mine. I've never put so much stuff in my hands in my life.
Just go to the ethanol plant, maybe you can get
Yeah.
it, just get it before they put the denature in it.
There is, several places
I have heard that.
that have hand sanitizer. I actually ordered some for the primary election just recently, so if you need, places to get hand sanitizer, I have a list.
No problem, there's no reason not to use bar soap.
Was it not?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
And short duration in here could be interpreted as a couple of months too, because in the big picture, a couple of months is a short duration. So,
I sent out a suggestion to you guys, I don't know if it's gonna come up or not. I thought it was pretty simple, but if you're on this floor, you use any bathrooms on this floor. You have your own bathroom, you use that.
Yep.
Our basement, we use that. Kind of keep it even on the different floors rather than, oh, I'm up here, I might as well go to the bathroom, you know?
You can work that out. I mean, that
Carla, what do you think? Are you good with that?
it's probably what everybody does anyway, nobody wants to go too far.
Yeah,
No, I see a lot of people going in and out of ours downstairs.
If this one's busy, I go downstairs.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we all-
and these-
Yeah, everyone comes downstairs 'cause,
The difference is now we just gotta wait our turn.
uh-huh.
we have Lysol or anything in our bathrooms.
Well, ours up here. I don't
We don't know down here, or down there.
probably need to have more of
You
it.
cannot get a can of Lysol. I mean, you can't overdo it, in my opinion.
I know it.
When I drove truck, I carried a small can of Lysol with me. You just
So like
never
at
know
one
what you're
time-
gonna get in a truck stop.
When the courthouse had a problem with the drains and stuff here, they closed these bathrooms down here and they were sending them down to our office. So we had everybody from the courts and the public coming in using ours. What do you do in a situation like that? Hopefully we won't have it again, but we didn't like everybody walking through our office to use the bathroom either.
You all got common sense,
Yep.
Yeah, I know
you
it.
know, so.
Well, we're closed to the public right now, so that will not be a
That
problem.
won't be a problem. But in the
Other than
future,
third floor. So has
Yeah.
the toilet paper theft gone down since they closed it to the public, or is there people still sneaking in and taking it?
I didn't know.
I don't
I
know.
know Kevin said that there was a lot of rolls that were
No
disappearing.
way.
Yeah, no.
I'm totally covered at home, so.
And it's just the one door being used for the public,
Yes.
Yeah.
we just wanted to make sure. 'Cause-
Well, and the reason that one for the most part was left open was because of the court
Yeah.
upstairs. And if they changed their policy, then it's possible that they could just lock the door, I suppose.
I don't want to misspeak, but I was thinking, starting yesterday, we were gonna have half of their staff at home and the other half in the office.
Who's that?
Courts,
Clerk of court.
Yeah, they are right now.
Well, their office is locked anyway, and you can't talk to them. So I
Yeah,
don't
they
know
got a
why,
pretty good situation.
so I don't really know why the door's unlocked for them.
Well, Well,
Well, if they have.
You can't do business with them?
Pardon me?
You can't do business with them?
You can, but underneath the door, I think, I mean, you,
Oh,
there is
well,
no,
they've got their counter has.
But are there clients coming in and out? Because
don't they
we have to
have
keep it
court still?
open for those people.
They had, there was a guy yesterday who had court
Yeah,
I ran into.
and that's, and they're, you know, in theory, they're supposed to go to the elevator and go straight upstairs. So until they close it to people coming in for their court dates, I suppose we gotta leave it open. Yeah, we gotta have a doorbell, somebody answering the door.
I don't think we need action for you guys, something like that, bathrooms and all that stuff.
Work it out.
No, yeah, you guys, that's,
Everybody
like you
knows.
said, common sense.
Work with respect.
Okay, there wasn't anything for drainage, so you guys didn't have anything to do?
No.
All right.
Curious.
Discussion with possible action, Environmental Education Center resolution of support.
Just explain it to us. Probably should limit passing things out too, huh?
Well,
There's the
I just washed my hands, but just give you a little bit of an update on, I might have mentioned this the last time we were in here, but the plan is to let bids in July. That would be contingent upon a CAT grant being approved, which could be up to about 20% of the project cost. And if that happened, then we could possibly start construction in the fall, September. That spreadsheet, or that, I call this our dashboard. I hand this out to my board every month. You can kind of see where our breakdown is for donations, and I haven't handed this out publicly before, so this is kind of and there's no real, it's good information. You see how many individuals we've had supported in the project. Our original goal was to raise $100,000 just locally, individuals. We went to 275, and we're still looking for donations and grants. This one's a little dated. We've got about $1,080,000 raised to date, and we're getting some resolutions back from all of the school districts. Have all agreed to support the project as well with a financial donation or contribution or pledge. I've got all of the cities going to submit a resolution. I have to meet with Thompson. They wanted a little more information, but it sounds like everybody else is on board as far as the resolutions. And those are required. We add those on to the CAT grant. NICOG, we're working with on the application, wanted all of these resolutions. We've got over about 24 resolutions and letters of support from the communities, schools, and then individual and businesses as well. So the CAT grant, our goal is to have it completed by about April 15th. They were due May 1st. I just got an email a few minutes ago from the state. They're going to move that out to May 15th because everything is kind of in flux right now. But we're going to go ahead and get our application ready and get it submitted so that when they are ready to look at them, it is ready. We have actually expended about $191,000 to date, and that was for the septic, the site prep, small amount for fundraising, and then architect and engineering fees. And by doing some of those things like the site prep and the septic ourselves, it looks like we're going to save probably about $250,000 over what our architect and engineers had estimated. So that was kind of an easy decision for the board to make when it come time to consider.
I can't remember, do architects and engineers get a percentage of their estimate or of the actual cost of it?
It started out about 15% of what it ends up being of what they estimated initially. Yeah, so it's like you said. Oh yeah. And
another reason to hate it.
okay. Obviously, you've got the resolution. You've seen the resolution, and And the resolution itself, I don't think is too hard to support. It's the financial amount that the Board of Supervisors have to contribute something to the project. And that second page I gave you there just gives you an example of some of the county conservation boards that have put up nature centers in the last 10 years, starting with, I think, Cassuth County. And that number there is what they had pledged or contributed to the project. I think the lowest amount was Mahaska County, but that was a bonded project. The others, as far as I know, I don't think any of these others were bonded. Lyon County's in the midst of a project right now, they just let bids.
Why would that make a difference, whether it's bonded or not?
Because their money was pretty much guaranteed. Once they got the bonding referendum passed,
Yeah,
they didn't go out and do a big fundraising event or spend the year raising funds privately.
I'm not following, why would that be a determination for the board to what the county gives?
I don't know that it should have been, but they already had the majority of their money through the bonding. And it took them 3 or 4 times. It's kind of like, the jail, and it went a number of, I think it was like a $3.5 million project. Ours is in the $1.25 to $1.3 million range.
What's that again?
Hang on a second. We've been kind of using $165 a square foot because of reference. That puts you at $1,267,000. We've come up with, the other thing that we're doing at the request of NICOG, they said to go ahead and figure what our furnishings could potentially cost. So I had that included in there. And if we go down and submit our CAT grant and the money gets tight and they tell us we got to cut someplace, that would probably be the first place we could cut would be furnishings versus construction materials, of course. 1.2 million, $1,234,249. We're in the need for about $345,792, and that includes over $100,000 for furnishings. And
Now, wait a second.
345.
The furnishings are already in there, and you gave me a figure of
Okay, now-
$1,267,000.
What I haven't told you yet is, I told you how much we spent. So you subtract that from the $1,080,000 that we have, we've got about $888,000 available right now.
Okay.
So with the CAT grant and with whatever you guys can contribute, and we still have a few small donations coming in, we're trying to close that gap of that 345.
So you have 880,000 pledged.
Yeah, pledged or we have it in the bank. I should say the foundation has it,
And to finish it off, you need another 300.
about 345. And that's all depending upon how our bids come in.
Yeah.
And that's the.
What happens, the bid comes in really, really good, and you've got excess money to build this? Yeah,
Well, I don't know as far as, the CAT grant will only pay a percentage. So if we overestimate, they will reduce what they're going to contribute. They're not going to say, we're going to give you 100,000 and give it to us. It's all based on a percentage of what our actual cost will be. And the way I understand it is when you've got the project going, you submit claims to the state and they give you a check back for 20% or whatever the percent they agreed to. So we're not going to end up with additional CAT money available.
no, not that. Theoretically, there could be an excess funds left.
And then,
Yeah, it's possible.
is a CAT grant a percentage of all costs, or is it not including engineering, or?
It is not including expenses that we've already incurred. So the 191,000, we can't use that. We will submit that on the application, so they're going to know what we have into it, but that won't be part of what they will cost share. It'll only be our actual cost from the day they approve the application going forward.
So you're still gonna have more ongoing costs of engineering and architecture?
We're just about, we're at over 90% of our engineering fees, so we've got I think it's around $10,000, $12,000 left in engineering. We had the well engineered, so that's done, that was about 5,000.
Can I ask why that needed to be engineered?
Because it's public water supply. And I talked to our local well man, and they said, I said, what's going to be the difference? And they said, well, they might require stainless casing, that type of thing, steel casing. They tell us exactly where we can put this well. It has to be at least 200 feet from the road right-of-way, at least 200 feet from the septic drain field, that kind of thing. But, we had to have
It
it
can't be
engineered.
on that other land that's not part of your project.
Oh, no, it has to stay inside that 3.5 acres, yeah. But our septic was installed last November, so that's done, other than hooking it up. Rognus was gonna move their back there today and get the trees burned and buried. And they have a little bit of dirt work, about 10% of the dirt work to do, not much. So that part's done. So the site is, that was the one thing we kind of wanted to do last fall for a couple of reasons, but one of them was so that when they do finally do construction, they can come in and have a flat surface to work off of when they start putting this thing together, because it's a post and beam and they need level surfaces to work on. So, I mentioned Lyon, I think I've mentioned Lyon County. They had a much larger project, it's about 11,000 square feet, and they just let bids here last month. They came in about $140 a square foot, and they had 7 different contractors, mostly from the Sioux Falls areas, and maybe out of Sioux City as well. And theirs was about a 1.6, almost a $1.6 million. And they're doing a post and beam, and they're actually using the same architect that we're using as well. So we had kind of a little bit, we've been comparing notes for several years, actually.
Is there a possibility of the money coming out of your budget to put towards it, since we put money into your budget?
The Conservation Board has had setting money aside in our Conservation Trust Fund. So the county got paid for the ITC Midwest coming across the Landy River Conservation Area. That was one, and that was about $138,000. And then about closer to 10 years ago, there was a easement put on some of the ground up in that Landy River area. And that we captured that money and put it in the trust fund. So right now, for example, we've been expending money out of the trust fund for most of the architectural fees. The foundation paid for the site prep and the septic system in the tune of about $90,000. They wrote those checks. So we will continue to expend money out of the trust fund, but we have line items set up in the current budget to pay bills out of once we start doing that, once the construction will start. And we put that together about a year ago, I suppose, with Carla and Chris over there. But we haven't expended any money out of it yet. But the Conservation Board and the Foundation are contributing from those funds about $237,000. And actually, most of the donations, 90+% of the donations have been going to the Foundation. And they're in a band, they're at MBT and TSP. So, and what will happen is they will just start transferring that money over to the county once we get to the construction phase.
There's just no place else for this money to come from. I mean, there's either the conservation budget or the conservation budget. I don't know where else you take it from.
Yeah, I don't either, yeah. And that's typically how the other counties have done it. I mean, I know
I think what Gary was going to, correct me if I'm wrong.
being financially contributing, I think,
You
and
know,
that's
it's 168,000 you got from ITC.
138.
138.
And then we got,
That could be considered the county giving.
no, it can't.
Why?
You'll have to ask them, but I asked that a year ago.
Who was the check written to?
Winnebago County Conservation Board. I mean, it went into the trust fund, into the
Right.
Conservation Trust.
Right.
But no, I asked Joe over at NICOG a long time ago about this. I said, because you and I, we'd all talked about this once before, that we knew the county would have to contribute, and I said, well, the county is.
No, that wasn't me. We'll still contribute, but.
Yeah, no, the supervisors have to
Right.
contribute
Right.
to the CAT grant, yeah. But I thought maybe that the fact that the county was contributing through the conservation board, that would count. He said, no. That doesn't.
No, but from a public standpoint, the county basically has ponied up $138,000. You didn't have that money before. So, and you got that money, that's income, we just turn right around and.
Yeah, it's like our special projects fund. We're putting revenue that we collect from camping and cabin receipts into those line items that are used to maintain those particular parks and cabins and different things. And we don't have to ask for extra tax asking because of that. Al McKee County, he called me yesterday. I'd asked him, I had a couple questions for him, and I think one of you, maybe both of you, a couple of you have been over to their nature center. Bill? And they got over a $400,000 CAT grant.
Okay.
It was a bigger project overall, but
With a view.
it was quite a
Yeah, it has a view of the Mississippi.
Yeah. They hired a consulting firm. They spent almost $100,000 on fundraising for their consultant. And he asked me how much we spent. I said, about $5 million. So,
And they kind of made it into a little museum too over there. I mean, they got an old river flatboat in there. And
it's about 10,000 square feet. It's a larger building, but it was an expensive project. Sioux County put up one. They just opened it this winter, I believe, and that was over $3.5 million.
WCTA and Byerly's, it's got LO.
Letter of inquiry. Oh, yeah. And we're still looking for, I see, like, for example, I just saw recently one of the local ethanol plants has grant applications open, so we're always looking. Of course, the Hanson Foundation was a large contributor.
speaking of grants, did we ever do anything else with the casino for possible grant?
And
I'm working on a grant for the front.
House project.
Yeah. I was gonna have Terry look at that when we're done with the meeting today.
yeah, we did get money from the Winnebago County Community Foundation too last summer. Casino, probably apply back to the casino again too, I think. And this is money that's pledged. We don't need it now. It has to be pledged, and then, but the amount that is pledged or put on the resolution has to be covered.
When is it going to be required?
Wouldn't be till after the grants were approved, and then maybe not even till, I don't know exactly. I know the applications won't be approved before July 1st. They have to be submitted now by May 15th.
So next budget year.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that has already been budgeted. I mean, you've got your next budget year budgeted already. I'm talking.
Did you draw the
No.
amount for that? We didn't.
Now, Terry had mentioned TIF, and I know when I've talked with Joe a little bit too over at Nikon, he said that would be doable. And it doesn't have to all be contributed in a single year. You can spread it out. I don't know what the advantage of that would be if you use TIF money, but.
If we were going to broaden our base for the TIF to include other projects next year, that would be the time we could.
You'd have to open up the plan or revise the plan, I think the way you described it.
Right now, we've opened it up to include the courthouse and what else was in there?
That's it.
That's it. So pretty limited scope other than the original. So what do you think?
Yes, I hadn't thought about it. You short 300 and what?
About 345, But we don't, I mean, that's not etched in stone yet because of the bids have not been let, so.
I was thinking 5,000, like what we gave for the other building.
Fine Arts Center.
Yeah.
That, there was a requirement there, we had to participate. We gave 5,000 to that.
This is a county-wide project.
Yeah.
I mean, you gave 5,000 to Heritage Park, didn't you, a couple times?
I think we've also been telling the taxpayers that this was all gonna be done by donation and not through the county, right?
That's been the assumption from the public, yeah.
And that's how we've always proceeded. But the CAT grant is a different,
No, you've done a great job doing that, yeah. From a cash flow side of it though, if you wanted more than 5, we could push it out over the next couple budget years, right?
yeah, Joe said it could be done in multiple pledges, I guess is the way he described it.
I mean, I'm impressed with how much you have raised. It's definitely a big plus for our county. So I'm 85,000 this amount. Because it was presented, at least I did, to the people that county money was going to be used on this.
Yeah, it would be, there's several people that I could think of that would say, yeah, I knew it would end up in
Yeah.
the county, just be spending money on it.
But I also have other people that are saying, you know, everybody else is already ponied up or going to pony up. Why isn't the county
Well, I mean,
ponying
there's a
up?
lot of people that are in favor of it, and probably wouldn't have a problem.
So we're gonna get differing opinions all the way.
Yeah, no,
Once it's built and they drive by it, they'll have a different opinion, I think.
And the one thing that they'll look at down in Des Moines when they're going over these CAT grants is, you know, our application's sitting here, and we're asking for X number of CAT dollars, and that application, maybe a similar project, because it easily could be another nature center in the mix, and they're gonna contribute, their county is contributing X number of dollars, which one are they gonna pick?
Competitive.
Because they want to spread their money out as far as they can as well, so. And I've sat in on enough grant committees over the years that that's definitely a factor when it comes to approve, which one you're gonna approve.
They're saying that the conference is saying it's a lot.
I'm not, you
I'm
know,
gonna push this button and it might say
stroll
something.
it.
I don't know.
I can go either.
Conference unlocked.
But I don't know how it got blocked,
Okay.
but it was blocking people from calling in.
Oh.
And it doesn't show.
So the more the county puts in, the better it looks, is that what you're saying?
Sure. I mean, it's, you hope that you're going in on a level playing field, but if somebody else is, their county is contributing a lot more money, you got this amount, a small amount, which one are you gonna take? And what,
Which if you spread it out over, 4 years, say, they're still getting the money, and it's less painful from the county's perspective. And that, the full amount can be used, right, even though it's spread out over 4 years for the CAT grant?
They just have to borrow money to do it, probably.
yeah, we have to have money to pay for the project, so if
You
it.
gotta have the full amount.
To pay
Yeah,
for the
yeah, we won't initiate the project until we have all the money. So let's say.
You said some counties spread it out over.
No, I'm saying what the supervisors have contributed, Joe said has been sometimes have been spread out over several years. So,
You'd have to borrow that,
yeah, because we can't go forward with the project unless we have all the money. And I think Cassuth County borrowed money from their local bank, low interest. I think they got a rural development loan as well, but most, yeah, I can't really say for the majority. I know
Are
there's
you
a
looking
few.
at a possible rural development loan, or are you far enough into it where you?
I think, right now, I don't think
It's a
we're
lot of
going,
paperwork.
yeah, for what you, could get. I think we're kind of held off on that, and then we looked at it.
Have you heard back from Byerly's or WCTA?
Not for anything from Byerly's, no. You know, it goes up the corporate chain.
Have you heard from WCTA? Back?
They have a foundation that we have to go through.
Orion? Orion.
And it's for, I think, 1,500 or 2,000 you can get out of, not the most. You're on that board, aren't you? Or I'm in the WCTA board.
I would think.
So at this point, it looks like to me, unless we amend the budget in some other way where we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, we're almost gonna have to do it through the TIF funding to about put any money into it. We're pretty tight on our budget. So instead of paying it over a number of years, I'd almost rather see us put a certain amount to it and be done with it, just when we change the TIF wording next year, say.
And we differ on that.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do any more than $5,000,
I
we
know.
don't have the money to do
I
it,
know we
so
don't. I know we don't.
but we have to.
I know we don't.
We don't have the 5,000.
No, we don't. You're exactly right. The budget is tight.
Yeah.
And I would suspend my differences for this.
What would that number be then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, and we need to look at the TIF and see if there's even room in the TIF after the courthouse.
Last time we talked about it, we had
Joe
1.3
Joe
million.
indicated that you guys have.
Yeah, but we haven't made the payments yet. We need to make sure that we have the payments for the TIF loan, what we've already done for the courthouse, and I haven't looked at it to see where we're at. I wasn't expecting a huge amount towards this, because like I said, I thought it was supposed to be all taxpayer dollars, or donation dollars, not taxpayer dollars. So I will need to look at the TIF and see what's even available.
I guess we're limited by that, so it's either,
You know, since that was the assumption, and I'm playing games here, I don't even know if this is legal, but if we were to give $150,000, but how much do you pull in a year from like the cabin rental and all that stuff?
Oh, like, the cabin itself is $8,000. I mean, overall, it's not a large amount. I mean, it's
Is that
certain.
total? What's your total income from all sources? Or not from us,
Yeah, you're talking about just revenue generated.
revenue generated outside the
Yes,
county.
ask me that.
Well, it doesn't matter what
It's
it is.
under $30,000.
Doesn't matter what it
I would
is.
say.
Would you think your board would be, up to paying back the county a certain amount of what we pledge out of this tip if we can? Since we, I've told everybody what Carla just said, that this, no county money's gonna be used. So you can get the project done.
Paying it back with,
Pay it back, we'll say 10,000 a year from receipts for, like the cabins.
well, and that money goes to maintain the cabins.
I know
Those
it,
kind of
I
things.
know
So
it.
it's kind of,
But is there an amount that you could pay back? And I don't know if this is legal.
yeah, I don't know. Um, Yeah, I'd have to
Okay.
look into that. I don't know what we can do. If the 1 cent sales tax gets approved, which I don't know if that can happen this year, but that will increase the amount we get like in our REAP revenue, and there's other grants that'll be fully funded that are available, but,
How soon you gotta have this for the cat?
Well, they did, we were planning to have it into NICOG by the 15th. So, I mean, if I could meet with you again next week and talk about it again, if Carla wants to look at some numbers. But,
no,
Yeah, I think
That, it has to be that way, because we don't know,
This is only
other than
the,
a small donation, we.
What
don't
numbers
know.
are you looking at, this fiscal year or next year's fiscal year, or?
well, and it only has to be pledged, so
I'm-
the expenditures won't happen until,
Right.
After
I'm
July
asking her what she's looking at.
Well, what do you want me to look at?
what's left in the TIF.
I don't.
For this fiscal year, next fiscal year,
I think next year would be fine.
next year?
Do you know where we're at on this fiscal year?
No.
I guess I'd kind of like to know that, you know, if we know kind of what the courthouse thing is, maybe there's some backfill there we can utilize if there's anything left over. But, you know, find out from Dave where he thinks he's gonna be on that. We're not gonna start another part of it till next fiscal year, right?
Right, the roof.
so that's after July.
Yeah, so I'd like to know one way or the other what fiscal year. You know, I mean, if we have to show expenses on this fiscal year that we can fill with this, it'd be nice just to be done with it. To free up next year's fiscal year TIF in another way. Whether it's paying off debt or however.
And I see some pretty big boys here that might come in pretty good here. When you say not funded, is that they said no? Like,
Yeah, the particular application, they didn't approve
For
it.
that,
Oh.
And there's been a few of them that I've actually resubmitted, and they didn't approve it again, so but yeah, so those are some that,
they're on it.
pretty much out of it.
Yeah.
You can reapply, but you kind of get a feeling when you look at what projects are being funded, you know that
Yeah.
you're not wasting your time.
It's not
It's
their
their
Well,
budget.
I'm under John Deere isn't exactly having a great time right now, so.
Yeah, and that one was, way back early last year. We started fundraising in January of 18, then we had the public part of it June of 18. And in in about a year's time, we got to about $1 million, close to $1 million, just under it, I believe. We did a mass mailing of 4,500 either zip codes of this area or people that own land in the county. And it was amazing how many folks that I didn't even know that used to live here, had family back here, would send you a check for $500 or $1,000, you know, in memory of, or
Well, just put it on the agendas for next week to look at.
okay, sounds good.
All right,
I gotta take a quick break
Okay.
before I start
Thank you.
this other stuff.
all right, so sure you use it on this floor.
Yeah, I know.
And I'll guarantee you, the ones that said there wasn't gonna be any county money used to be louder than the ones that don't care.
You know, when we first started, we didn't even know anything about CAT grants at the time, and
Yeah.
so that was kind of new.
But I'll guarantee, not all of them, but once it's up and they drive by it. or
Oh,
drive in,
yeah, it's,
And we've only put in whatever, you know, and it will be minuscule compared to the project.
yeah, it'd be about, you know, a fifth, I suppose. What is the total
The
project?
CAT grant can be up to, total is about 1.2 to 1.3.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So, yeah.
I
So
got
10% would be, 120.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the CAT grant,
If we
they
went-
say 20%, but figure on probably a little less.
You know,
Joyce applied for a CAT grant for their library in the city hall, and they got it the first go around.
well,
and that was-
Andrew, I'm not for county money being used on this. On the same token,
Well, I don't
I
think there's
am.
any money that you have to borrow.
I am for it because it's gonna be
It's
a
an asset.
heck of
It's
a
an asset. to the
addition
county.
to our county.
And we initially thought that, or maybe made the assumption was that since the county conservation board was contributing money, that's the county.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're telling us over there, so. And when I talked with Joe, he's indicated that there is room in the TIF. That's not something I've ever dealt with, so I'm not familiar.
I'm pretty sure there is. Cause back in my mind, we had what, like 1.3, and I think we were gonna use what, 6?
No.
Has that gone up?
The numbers we were using this year on the amended part, was it 600 and some thousand this year?
400
Or
this
400?
year.
What, sorry,
The tip money that we amended for,
okay?
off the cuff, what do you estimate it?
At least 400 and some odd thousand.
And the excess was probably over $1 million,
I'm not sure.
or just not.
That's the way I remember it.
Well, but
but
I
that is
I just don't know if that included the payments or not. So I can't, I don't want to tell you until I know for sure.
Yeah.
What,
That did.
I think it included it.
Oh, it
I
was,
think
yeah,
included
the
payments, is
payments
way I
was
remember
like
it.
3 million something, I think, and then, but we'll look it up.
But
Yeah,
it's better to be
I
safe
wanna
than
be sure.
sorry, so. All right, thank you.
Yeah, the numbers over on the right, I remember, were like the 1.2, 1.3 million,
Yeah.
the excess.
Yeah.
It varied.
Okay,
But now, when we do tip like that, when you make your report, how close do you have to come? Do you have to have every dollar? Do you have to have a certain percentage?
I have to match the general ledger. So it's to the dollar.
Okay, and whatever number to, do you pay extra interest then, or extra principal to make up it, or what?
No, right now I just,
We're just getting to that point where we have excess.
right.
This is the first year or so.
Yeah, there's been like two
It's been-
years or 3 years.
yeah,
And like Mike had talked a lot about making like extra payments.
Right.
So that's why I was continuing to,
So that would be probably our policy unless we have another use.
unless we have a project.
That's the way it was set up when we voted to approve it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will make a spreadsheet and
Yeah.
come back next week.
all right, open forum. Anything for that?
Yeah.
That's a little bit dope. That's a little bit dope. we done with open forum?
All right. Consider for approval budget resolutions for fiscal year 21.
Just a signature only then?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget resolutions for fiscal year 21.
Third.
A motion from Derby and a third from Stensrud to approve the budget resolution fiscal year 21. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, being there's a third out there, we get something. All right, consider for approval of county claims.
I have a couple questions on this. I didn't understand it all. Can you pull them up?
They're
Oh, yeah,
somewhere.
Here they are.
I do.
They were one of the first things that were there.
Really?
Unless it got buried in here.
Oh, I just looked in
I
here.
got DNR.
About 3 pages in here.
Oh, there was more than that, I think.
Yeah, because I remember signing it.
Remember stamping it?
Yeah, you guys had already signed it. Alright, get it for myself. It happens when the stack of stuff gets too big.
Gotta be over pretty soon, so I just ran out of Smarties.
I know where there's more.
Is your Rotary doing remote meetings now, or
They just
not? Meeting?
not doing them.
So, like FCED, I had 2 different FCED meetings the other day remotely.
I think we're gonna have a board meeting this week remotely, but
The CSS meeting,
Oh, yeah.
there's echoing, squealing.
Yeah, you have to be able to control the muting people that are having that problem.
yeah,
That's why I wear the headset, because it just doesn't do that, and then I just flip it up when I want to mute. But then I end up with black ears.
This should look exactly what you sent out to us, right?
Unless you saw last week's or something.
No?
Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah, I thought it was under Veterans Affairs, but it's not on here. Under the, like, explanation,
Mm-hmm.
it had a personal name for, $300.
If that would have been somebody's utilities that they paid, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually the name they have on there is the rent, the person
They're
renting
paying
the
the rent
property
too.
or whatever that they're paying. They
No,
usually-
this was, I knew the name.
Oh, so it was
And I know
actually,
him.
I have seen a few of them that they had it on there where where I thought, you know, we're supposed to know that or not.
Yeah,
And it's only a last name, it's not.
yeah, that's all it was.
Sometimes there's only one of them, so we know who it is, type of thing.
I
That's
can't understand
not for
that.
me
I
to
can't
say.
find it. But anyway, that's all question.
Okay,
But you see names on there that, you know, like, they don't need anything, but then you figure out it's being paid to them for,
Well, this guy does, but it's self-inflicted, big time.
that's not something you should talk about on the video.
What's that?
That's not something you should say.
They don't know who.
No more questions then? Oh, okay,
So I don't wanna say it out loud.
okay.
You know.
That's just something for mental health that they pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who determines that?
Sandy.
Sandy. Social services, I guess, not mental health, but
Yep.
social services.
Okay. Thanks.
So you're okay with the claims?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion Derby, second from Stinser, to approve the county claims, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I suppose if we were to do it in this fiscal year for that project, we gotta get going on any amendment.
We can pledge.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's gonna be done in the TIF in this fiscal year or something, we have to do
I
an
think we
amendment.
should just forget it and do it next year, so we can pledge and
But you'll get the numbers together, and we'll look at it next week.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll.
I'll second it.
Motion from Stinser, and second from Derby to approve payroll claims, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Which way is it easier for you,
What?
this year or next year? Doesn't matter?
Well, we gotta go through amendment if we do it this year.
Yeah. That's what I assumed.
It's either then or now.
Is there other amendments that are gonna be coming up?
Well, it depends on what you guys, if you want to do anything with roads or.
Do we have to have an amendment to pay extra principal?
No.
Because it's an expenditure. We didn't know if you had to,
I don't think so, but I can double check
I
with.
think we better find out
Bob.
on that. We may end up having to amend the budget just for that purpose.
Well, we'd have to amend the budget, but I don't think you have to amend.
No, not the TIF,
Right.
urban renewal plan. So that one in Lake Mel's, I got it the day after the meeting. Not that I was gonna go to it, but
We go back to open forum. Just got a text from Brody Anderson.
All right, I'll go back to open forum.
Do you need Chris?
Oops, I forgot to shut
What's
that.
that?
Do you need Chris?
Yeah, yep, we do.
Chris? $75.11.
75 what?
11. You can hang it up. She's on her way.
Your call is.
I heard you.
Just
I'm
got a
like,
text
I'm moving.
for drainage, just got a
Okay.
text from Gordy Anderson.
You wanna go back to drainage or number eight?
Yeah, I might as well do
Yeah,
drainage.
that's good.
All right, back to drainage.
I think during your open forum, you guys should discuss about fixing county tiles and ditches. Scott Minder said as long as they are not blocking the water, they won't fix. Till, probably fix it. Maybe later. Oh, till maybe later. But they should be on the list to get fixed right away so we don't have more problems later.
So it's a combination of
Scott.
roads and.
Right,
drainage.
that is a question. It's been brought up before too. If the open ditch is in the road ditch, whose responsibility is it to pay?
If it's,
I think it's secondary roads.
if it's in their right of way, it's theirs.
So if we just fixed it, how would we then bill secondary roads? Can we bill secondary roads? So that is a question I
We
think,
have before.
I'm not sure if
They
that
weren't
answers.
happy about it, but they,
Because
That
they
would be
prefer to do it themselves, but
Maybe
then
we
they don't
should
get it done
call
themselves.
Scott too.
Yeah, or I was gonna say we can put it on for next week, cause it's not gonna,
Yeah.
I think we're better off discussing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
All right,
I would love to be able to fix them as a district, but if the district normally wouldn't pay for it, why should they now?
There might be a legal question to that too.
Right, I'm not sure. So I agree with Gordy, I just don't know the answer.
You want me to call the lawyer or you want, we should have that answer.
Well, the one case there, next to Rembrandt.
Mhm.
I would think maybe part of it's in the road ditch and part of it's on their land, right? With an easement. The ditch is not normally that wide.
So you're saying part of it landowner, part of it, well, that would already be determined in the assessments.
Right.
So Rembrandt already is paying their share of it.
Well, everybody's paying a share of it.
Right, that's already figured in.
Yeah.
But when it's totally, if it's just a little running in the road
A little
ditch,
fall ditch or something.
yeah, then it's not running into landowner property. Who needs to pay? And I can send an email to Iowa DDA.
I think so.
Yep.
Because if it was me, that's a huge part of the drainage system. I don't know. I personally wouldn't think it would be on the roads, but
So,
I don't know.
but I'll find out. I'll do that and get an answer for next week.
Because there's a huge ditching out by, where Gordy Anderson bought Brent Elvis's farm.
Yeah.
And that goes about a half mile.
That's lat 2 of DD 1.
Okay.
That would be a huge cost to the county.
And that's the way
Next
they
time
did
get
it.
stretched.
And
Yeah, I
DD
know.
one,
I
they
know.
put the road next to it. The ditch
Yeah.
was already there, I'm assuming, before the road was. If it's DD one, that's in
Yeah, but lat 2 might have
1905.
been later.
That'd be 18 something.
true.
Because it,
And it could have been later, you're right.
you know, DD 1 actually started as Pike Run.
So, yeah, that could be.
I'm not sure, but I think Pike Run actually goes that route up to Harmon Lake.
I don't know what it is.
oh, all right, we're done talking about,
Yeah, I'll get an
that.
answer.
We'll get it on the agenda
Next
next
week.
letter. All right, we stand adjourned.
So do you think that'll have to be a separate item or just general discussion?
We can do it under general discussion.
Let's make it a separate one.
Let's make it a separate